You are posting harmful misinformation about the weather systems in Texas. Here's what I would like to say to you. You're a fucking dumb chud. And you should do exactly what you think about doing. That's what you should do. As floods hit, key roles were vacant at weather services offices in Texas. You should shut your fucking mouth, you dumb chud piece of shit. Anyway, chat, welcome on in. How's everybody doing? Okay, hold on, chat. Let me see if this works. Oh my god. I might actually have to try to like look nice in the morning and trim my fucking mustache. All right, we're gonna be fixing the camera. Like, did you see the Epstein thing I linked in Discord? No, yeah, the conservative movement is trying to say that Epstein, guys, nobody came into his area of the prison, and nobody ever said that. People said that Epstein was killed by a fellow prisoner who was a corrupt cop murderer who had previously tried to kill Epstein. Nobody said that somebody came into prison like a fucking FBI agent. They're literally, or like some sort of secret agent. This is, I think he's actually was murdered now. I like their attempt is crazy. Oh, anyway, so Donald Trump killed a bunch of Texan conservatives, especially children and their children, which is really fucking sad. And conservatives are going to cope about it. And I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's funny at all. I don't think it's something to joke about. But I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen just so they don't feel bad about themselves. And notice the guy who said I was spreading misinformation suddenly went silent as soon as I showed actual information. What happened? I thought you were here to debate. What happened? What happened? Where'd you go? What happened? His argument is they were overstaffed. Guys, they were overstaffed. Personally, you know what? I agree with you. I think we should keep the Texan flood warning system staffed exactly as Wolfie says. I'm 100% okay with that. If conservatives want to learn the facts and see like, oh yeah, we died, like a bunch of our children died because we wanted to cut taxes on billionaires, and they say that that's good, all right, as long as they do that with full consent. Now, the rest of the country, we're going to have robust systems, okay? But for you in particular, I'm okay with it. I am okay with you suffering consequences. I'm not going to make fun of the kids that died. They're innocent. And it is terrible that more children are going to die in Texas. But, you know, if that's what you think, that's good. You dumb chud piece of shit. Some experts say staff shortages may have complicated forecasters' ability to coordinate responses with local emergency management officials. Critical positions at local offices at the National Weather Service were unfilled as severe rainfall inundated parts of central Texas on Friday morning, prompting some experts to question whether staffing shortages made it harder for the forecasting agency to coordinate with local emergency managers as floodwaters rose. Now, chat, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty familiar with the weather system because of being a pilot and all. So actually, one of the elements of being a pilot is studying weather and becoming very familiar with the National Weather Service and all the amazing free services that our government used to provide. High quality forecasting, the flood warnings, and other like, you know, weather emergencies. That is like one of the best things about being in a developed country is having developed weather forecasting. So that, you know, weather forecasting isn't perfect. Having a good sense of what the risks are can literally save your life. Anyway, so what are we talking about today? I didn't get into that. I just saw a dumb fuck try to say something, and then oops, it turns out it wasn't misinformation, and now it's just they have a different. Now they're scrambling, right? First, it was I was spreading misinformation, which means intentionally. I'm sorry, I was wrong about facts and I didn't know, right? And then it shifted to, well, actually, they were overstaffed. Well, thank you, Wolfie. What job do you have? What job did you have? No past broadcast. Oof. Oof. Well, we got a clip. We got a couple clips in the last week. It doesn't. What's your top of all time? What's the top 6 years ago? Z1. Okay, you got one headshot. Nice, man. So basically you came in here, said it was misinformation, and then when I proved that it wasn't misinformation, you just change it to now it's an opinion you have. I guess we have the Z1 players. Just told Twitch you told a vet to kill himself. I didn't say that. Peace. Oh no, the Z. Oh no. Oh. I think one of the worst parts about conservatives is they're actually pussies. They're actually pussy ass bitches. Such a fucking soy ass loser, dude. What a fucking loser. Anyway, good luck with the report. Good luck with the reports, just like Asmongold. Good luck. So the entirement falls apart, you throw a tantrum? Yeah, I mean, the reality is Texans got killed because of Trump, especially little girls. And instead of being like, instead of being like, well, actually, wow, that's maybe Trump made a mistake. He started like mauling and then cried and then was like, fight me, fight me, fight me. That's it? The internet warrior, keyboard warrior? Why don't you try booting up a stream? What are you doing for work these days since you're not streaming? Tell me about your life. You're in your 30s now. How's it going for you? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing these days? Nothing? Okay. Anyway, what he tells me about his life now, chat, we'll keep entertaining Wolfie. Anyway, let's go back to how Trump killed a bunch of Texans and they're defending it. Before we get into that, what else are we talking about today? Elon Musk wants to do the America Party. The America Party, which is gonna be vaporware. It's not gonna do anything. It's totally fucking worthless. He has zero charisma. If you want to form a political party, you have to have one thing above everything else: charisma. Now, charisma doesn't just mean hot. It doesn't just mean that you're like super good at speaking. You have to have something about you which draws people to you. That's what charisma is. All right. And Elon Musk is the least charismatic man I've ever seen. And he can dump billions of dollars into meaningless focus grouped ads. He's also out of touch and not an American. So he can't even run. Not a natural born American. So he can't even run for president. So it's like, who's going to be the leader of the America Party? Plausibly based. Oh, what's he saying now? He says communism and socialism is evil. Well, did somebody tell you that? Did an adult tell you this? Your account is from, you can't post here on new accounts. Your account has to be at least a year old if you're going to post dumb shit. You can't just post dumbass shit with a brand new account. Eat shit and die. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Let's throw that in my title. I'm getting distracted by making fun of the conservatives. I mean, like, here's the thing. I don't think we should make fun of the victims. I think it's fucking horrible. And it's really sad. But if you're going to come in here and defend the cuts that Trump made, if you're going to come in here and defend, cutting taxes for billionaires and getting rid of the National Weather Service, I'm going to make fun of you. I'm not going to make fun of the victims. I'm going to make fun of the scum that make those victims possible. Enjoy your echo chamber. I didn't ban you. I'm libertarian, by the way. Oh, this is my new favorite guy. You definitely don't have a job. You definitely don't have a job. You were a partnered streamer 6 years ago. I asked you what you do for a living, and then you just said everybody's a pussy. And then you called everyone else a femboy. Are you gay? Like, are you a gay man? I don't want to like be mean. I don't want to make fun of your sexuality or anything. That was very quick for you to start thinking about femboys. Why do femboys come to your mind so fast? I mean, I'm not a femboy. So what make femboys come to your mind so quickly? I'm not up here with fucking pantyhose on. So why are you thinking about femboys? What my favorite thing about, okay, chat, it's early in the stream, so I obviously want to cover this more and seriously, but since it's still 7:30 in the morning, how about we have a little fun? What's your favorite libertarian? This is my favorite libertarian. From the Libertarian Convention. So they had a presidential debate. This is my favorite thing I've ever seen. This is when somebody says they're a libertarian, this is what they are.
Mr. Peterson, I have a feeling I know how this answer is going to be. Should someone have to have a government-issued license to drive a car?
Hell no.
Dr. Feldman.
A car is like a gun or anything else. As long as you're using it right and not using it to hurt other people, you should have a right to use it. A license and a permit is just another way to get some money and inconvenience to people.
Mr. McAfee.
I don't think licenses are required. However, if you are under 16 and your parents say you can drive and you haven't done it before, you should put a flashing pink light on your roof at least so we can get out of your way.
These goddamn libertarian moderates, they want regulations on you. And if I don't put that pink light on my car, what are you gonna do to me, McAfee? Put me in one of your prisons? You're gonna have traffic enforcement for the pink light?
That at the most.
Mr. Perry.
The government requires licenses for far too many things. The government requires licenses for people to broadcast radio. The government requires licenses to get married. They require a license to drive. What's next? Requiring a license to make toast in your own damn toaster? Absolutely not.
I think, Wolfie, when did you run for president? Wolfie, how was your experience running for president?
Governor.
I think government has a basic responsibility to protect us against individuals, groups, corporations, foreign governments that would do us harm. In that context, a license to drive, you know, I'd like to see some competency exhibited by people before they drive. As governor of New Mexico, I vetoed a whole lot of bills. I vetoed the haircutting license. I vetoed all sorts of licensing, but license to drive? I mean, you could, arguably, you could have an insurance requirement, I guess, that then the insurance company would determine. I mean, you got people that are blind that would be on the road, I think, that would actually continue to drive until they hurt somebody. I think...
Gentlemen, we have come to the end of the question and answer portion.
Let elderly people drive. Let delusional people drive. Let people with seizure disorders drive. Boo.
Of the debate, you now have 60 seconds to make
children drive.
Closing argument. Since Mr. McAfee went first, Mr. Perry, you may go first.
Let the blind drive. Wolfie, where'd you go? All right, chat. So that's pretty stupid, right? Like, obviously, listen, there's already people that are idiots on the road already, but these are people that have to at least pass a written test, and they have to pass a practical driving test in order to demonstrate that they have even a basic level of competence, or else they can't drive. And if they do, they'll get arrested. And that protects people because, I don't know if you noticed, driving is one of the leading causes of premature death in this country. We probably need to do more licensing. We probably need more strict training regimen for driving in this country. If anything, we're too libertarian on this because it kills so many fucking people. And I don't know about you, but I like the fact that other people have to at least demonstrate some basic level of competency. And if they get some sort of sickness that might make them an unsafe driver, they might lose their license. I think that's good. And I think the government should do that. So why do libertarians disagree with that? Well, because they're hidebound ideologue idiots. And they think that the government bad. So they don't even bother getting to the point of like practical real life experience or understanding. And I think libertarianism tends to be the ideology of losers, of like richer families, like upper middle class families that are insulated from some of the consequences of repealing government with a little bit of family money. That's where the upper middle class libertarian kind of ideologue lives. It's the upper middle class fail son, right? Pseudo intellectual dipshit. And if you think that's bad, we're just getting started making fun of libertarianism. Libertarians believe, this is from the Mises Institute, which is one of the country's leading libertarian think tanks. And what libertarians believe is that parents should be able to starve their children to death, or neglect them, or expose them to the elements, or if they want, sell their children. This is what libertarians believe. There's a very famous article called Children and Rights that I urge all of you to read. If you ever encounter anybody who's a libertarian, you should understand what they're saying is they believe children should be bought and sold, and that parents should have the right to starve their own children to death. And if you think I'm exaggerating, now if a parent may own his child within the framework of non-aggression and runaway freedom, then he may also transfer that ownership to someone else. He may give the child out for adoption, or he may sell the rights to the child in a voluntary contract. In short, we must face the fact that the purely free society will have a flourishing free market in children. And if you want to know about the starvation, allow the child to die. To die. Oh, here it is. I found it. Applying our theory to parents and children, this means that a parent does not have the right to aggress against his children, but also that the parent should not have a legal obligation to feed, clothe, or educate his children, since his obligations would entail positive acts coerced upon the parent and depriving the parent of his rights. The parent, therefore, may not murder or mutilate his child, and the law properly outlaws the parent from doing so, but the parent should have the legal right not to feed the child, i.e., to allow it to die. The law, therefore, may not properly compel the parent to feed a child or to keep it alive. This rules the answer of following a fortiori from the larger right to allow any baby, whether deformed or not, to die. So this is what libertarians believe. If somebody tells you they're a libertarian, they believe that there should be a open market for children, that children should be allowed to be neglected to death, and that requiring a license to drive a car on the public roads is tyranny. This is what libertarians believe. If somebody says they're a libertarian, they're a fucking freak. Or they're stupid and they don't know what their own libertarian ideology means.
Fucking level 1 rookie bitch ass commentators on Twitter. You not fooling a libertarian by bringing up them bitch ass roads. You must drive on the roads. You must hate the roads. And you somehow think that the thing that's gonna stump us and be like, damn, fuck this libertarian shit is the motherfucking roads. Jesus Christ. Walter Block has long form write-up of the privatization of roads and highways. This is level 1 shit. Just because you can't figure out how minus taxation, people would say, damn, I need to get over there. What if we built a goddamn flat space? If you think people can't figure that shit out, or you can't figure out how people would do that, that's on you. That's okay. This is why we're free markets. Let the smart people kind of figure that shit out and allocate those resources. But I promise you, homies, you not fooling now libertarian by bringing them bitch ass roads. Fuck them hoe ass roads.
Where'd he go? Where'd he go? He didn't expect me to actually have read more than him on his own political philosophy. You dumb fuck. Where'd you go? It's so funny when people come in here to me and be like, I have a political philosophy you've never heard of called libertarianism. Like, wow, dude, you watched a YouTube video in 2008 or whatever YouTube started, 2012. Whatever the fucking libertarian era was on YouTube. Fucking loser. Bitch ass dumb fuck. Anyway, back to how all these children are being killed because of free market fundamentalism. Critical positions at local offices of the National Weather Service were unfilled as severe rainfall inundated parts of central Texas on Friday morning, prompting some experts to question whether staffing shortages made it harder for the forecasting agency to coordinate with local emergency managers as flood waters rose. Texas officials appeared to blame the Weather Service for issuing forecasts on Wednesday. They underestimated how much rain was coming, but former Weather Service officials said the forecasts were as good as could be expected given the enormous levels of rainfall and the storm's unusually abrupt escalation. The staffing shortages suggested a separate problem. Those former officials said the loss of experienced people who would typically have helped communicate with local authorities in the hours after flash flood warnings were issued overnight. The shortages were among the factors likely to be scrutinized as the death toll climbs from the floods. And so this is exactly what happened, is with typical fucking dumb fuck MBA mindset, they come in and they go, I don't think these people are needed to do the minimum level of staffing required to do a forecast. We should eliminate all these positions. We could do it more efficiently. And what ends up happening is you get rid of all the people that would coordinate the response to the forecast. And so maybe the forecast exists somewhere, but the officials that are responsible for helping communicate it are all gone because they were seen as excess, surplus. And what ends up happening is, sure, the forecast happened, but there isn't alerts going out fast enough so that people could actually react. And so you have a huge disaster that kills over 100 people. And this is exactly what I'm talking about.
The victims of this tragedy.
Listen to this shit. And if you don't know what a flash flood is, basically, you go from a situation where maybe there isn't even rain happening, the lightest drizzle, and then all of a sudden a wall of water and, more importantly, debris comes out of nowhere. And before you know it, you're being swept up in a turbulent flow of filthy, debris-laden floodwater, and you die as you get battered because the water overflows banks and streams, and you're being thrown into things, and you're being tumbled, and the flow is pushing you down, and you can't swim out of it, and it's full of toxic waste and sewage. Here's what it looks like. Here's a time lapse, 30-second time lapse. So it seems like this area is prone to floods. So there is expectation here. So nobody was caught here because it's easy to see. But you can see how low the water is, how low the flood, like the typical flow of the stream is. Look where this water ends up. And it doesn't look like it's an especially heavy rain. Those people said, oh, well, we're the fuck out of here. That ain't getting better. The first big part happens within 3 minutes. Yeah, like look at the timestamp, chat. 7:10. Bam, look at that. So it goes from, let's look at that. 7:15. It's still below the road at 7:15. The floodwaters have just picked up. And by 7:18, it has like look how much it rose. By 7:19. So 4 minutes dramatically rose. Imagine if you were in a tent sleeping.
The victims of this tragedy range from young to old and include a family of 6 spanning multiple generations.
We're learning more about the victims of the flood disaster and the survivors trying to come to terms with what they witnessed.
I had to swim through a window and hold on to the meter box outside of the house.
28-year-old Christian Fell says he stood on the electric meter box outside his home for nearly 3 hours to stay alive. 27-year-old Julian Ryan died heroically, saving his kids by placing them on a floating mattress. Beloved high school teacher Jeff Wilson, who taught auto body repair, also lost his life in the flood. His wife and son are missing.
He was able to build relationships with kids, maybe kids that didn't fit the traditional classroom model.
And at Camp Mystic, where more than...
By the way, chat, this is what building on a floodplain looks like. When Ezra Klein was going on to Sam Cedar's show and saying, we need to build like Houston, this is what building on a floodplain looks like. So whenever you hear an abundance person going, regulations, this is the result of building on a floodplain.
And 24 campers were swept away in the night. At least 11 are confirmed dead. Among them, Janie Hunt, the 9-year-old cousin of Kansas City Chiefs owner Clark Hunt. His wife announcing Janie's death, saying, "If your heart is broken, I assure you God is near." 18-year-old camp counselor Chloe Childress is being remembered for her work with senior citizens. The head of her high school saying, "Chloe made space for others to feel safe, valued, and brave." Those who knew Camp Mystic's owner, Dick Eastland, say he died heroically, trying to rescue campers. His grandson writing, "If he wasn't going to die of natural causes, this was the only other way, saving the girls that he so loved and cared for."
He was, a man that made everyone feel safe and seen. He was just an extremely selfless person. And
Okay, can I just say something, Chad? I'm going to say something controversial. I absolutely hate this kind of shit. This is what makes me a left-winger, man. I hate this kind of shit. It causes me to get pissed. I hate this cope bullshit. It triggers the fuck out of me. Yes, I'm sure he died bravely, but he died pointlessly because we fucked him over. We as a society didn't take care of each other. No one should ever die like this that we can avoid. Tragedy is inevitable. But this type of shit in the richest country in the world, a bunch of people dying because we didn't tell them a flood was coming, is fucking crazy. None of these people had to die. And his individual story of heroism is cool and all, but this is fucked up, man. And we should be furious.
Showed that until the very end.
Once was lost, but now I'm found. On Friday, hundreds of girls able to evacuate from Camp Mystic sang songs through their tears as they rode a bus through the devastation.
The NFL and singer Shakira are among those already donating to the flood relief effort. If you want to help, donations can be made to the Kirk County Flood Relief Fund or to the World Central Kitchen.
Let's get some of the coverage. Let's see the most up-to-date coverage. So this was the first report from 1 day ago.
I'm Mayor Joe Herring Jr., Mayor of Kerrville, Texas. I'm glad.
Right now, they say the death toll is well over 80, and there are dozens and dozens missing, which means those people are buried under mud. So we're talking well over 100 dead.
Glad you're here, and I have a few comments to make. People need to know today will be a hard day. It will be a hard day. This is the message I want to share. The city of Kerrville is thankful. We have help from our city crews, from county personnel, from state agencies, and federal resources, including the Coast Guard. I have been asked how people can help. The sheriff has mentioned that a fund has been set up by the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country. Information about this can be found on the city's Facebook page. In fact, if you want to know how to help, I know from my phone, from my texts, from my emails, thousands of people across.
Why aren't Democrats screaming how Trump's cuts killed people? Because they're cowardly and because they want the Republicans to win. I think I need you guys to understand something. The Democratic Party, the officials, the elites, the people in charge of the messaging, do not want to win. I want you to understand this. All they want to do is serve as a thermostatic effect. Basically, what do I mean by that? Serve as a thermostatic effect. Basically, politics has fluctuations, right? When a party is in power, people tend to be skeptical of that party. And when they blame them for shit, that's not really their fault. So over the course of time, parties tend to get into power, start to enact some of their agenda, and then forces of resistance organize against them. Things happen, and it tends to turn back the other way. And so the other party has a chance to win. That's the thermostatic effect. Every centrist doesn't, a centrist does not believe that you can, oh, sorry, my camera is tracking me now. My camera is tracking me now, chat. It decided it wanted to do that. Stop tracking. Stop tracking. Anyway, Hakeem Jeffries just texted me personally saying a $30 donation is make or break to stop the Republicans. So exactly, like they don't want to actually win because they don't believe in anything. So centrists just believe in the thermostatic effect, which is things will fluctuate back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that the best way to win power is to try to figure out what the median voter thinks and then tailor your message to the, quote, median voter. So if you're a Democrat, that means move to the right. If you're a Republican, that means kind of slightly move to the left. But you mostly just tailor your message toward the median voter. That is centrist politics, which is always be going against your base. Always be going towards the status quo. And just basically let things fluctuate, and then you're in power sometimes, and you can tinker around the edges on a couple things, but largely the status quo is good, and we just need to kind of do focus groups and do marketing and come up with good messaging and have good branding, and then we'll win. Now, why did we win? I don't know, because you have no ideology, you don't have no goals, you have no like thing you're trying to accomplish. That is the centrist mindset. And the Democratic Party is full of those people at the highest levels. Why is that the case? Why are the Democrats like that? Well, the answer is the wealthiest people in the society like the status quo. You know, if you're a billionaire and you're making millions of dollars doing nothing, you want to keep that system the way it is. Why did the king like nobility. Like, why did the nobles like fucking feudalism? Because they were the elites in society and they got something for nothing. Why do capitalists like capitalism? Because they're the lazy elites and they get something for nothing. They get to reap where others sow. That's the essence of what we call dialectical materialism. The haves and the have-nots. And this is, if you want an understanding, this is James Carville. With no clear leader to voice our opposition and no control in any branch of government, it's time for Democrats to embark on the most daring political maneuver. Roll over and play dead. Basically, what this means is let the Republicans control stuff. Bad things will eventually happen. People will get annoyed, and then they'll just vote for the other party. That's their entire strategy. And donors love this because it means nothing will happen. And notice that what happened was the opposite. The person that has emerged as the most compelling politician of this moment is Zohran Mamdani, the proudly democratic socialist, pro-Palestine, millennial candidate from New York City. And he absolutely smashed the billionaires and the Democratic Party elite in the primary. Why did that happen? Because he did the opposite. He went out there and he confronted ICE. He went out there and he protested. He went out there and he stood shoulder to shoulder with pro-Palestine activists. He went out there and stood with young people and talked to them about what is causing them to have so much struggle in their life, which is the cost of what? Housing. He talked to parents and said, what's your biggest struggle? And they said, the cost of childcare. He went out there and he talked to people. He found out what their problems were, and he came up with concrete programs and policies that we could enact immediately that'll make people's lives better. The Democrats find that to be anathema. And so what is their strategy to deal with him? Is it to talk about alternative policies? No, it's to attack him personally, to go through, to have Nazis literally hack his college applications for a college he didn't even go to. And in that attack, the Zohran attack, he checked a box for Africa. It said he's from Uganda. He's from Uganda. It said put your nation of origin in the text box. He didn't even do anything wrong. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. It said reveal your nation of origin, Uganda, which his family has lived in for over 150 years. Check Tesla stock. Is it crashing or is it skyrocketing? The reason why Tesla stock went down, chat, is because Elon starting a new political party means he's going to be targeted by the Republicans and they're going to take away all his subsidies. He's a fucking idiot. If he actually tries to start a third party, they're going to take away his subsidies, which is what he lives off of. Allow the Republicans to crumble beneath their own weight and make the American people miss us. This is absolute pathetic. This is the nature of what the Democratic Party is. The Democratic Party does not want to govern. The Democratic Party doesn't want to actually do what their base wants it to do. If you actually ask Democratic Party voters what they want progressivism. If you ask moderates what they want progressivism. There's no such thing as a moderate. It means nothing. I'm going to make a TikTok on that subject. The myth of the moderate voter, because it is the most insidious fucking myth that carries on in our political discourse. There's no such thing as a moderate. All right, let's keep going.
Across our state and the world want to know how they can help. The easiest way to get information about that is to follow the City of Kerrville Facebook page. City of Kerrville, City Hall, Facebook page. They have done an admirable job of making sure all resources and all information is available, not only to the citizens of Kerrville, but to the citizens of the world. I'm thankful you're here. Today will be a hard day. Please pray for our community. Thank you. Next up is City Manager Dalton Rice.
Thank you, Mayor. Dalton Rice, the city manager for the city of Kerrville. Just wanted to give a couple updates on operations. Operations did continue through the evening. We used specialized equipment with a lot of helicopters trying to identify any areas that we could find, heat sources or whatever. So operations did continue throughout the night. Obviously, the water did recede into this morning. I do want to encourage folks with road damage, even though a road may be open, please use extreme caution. If water does get under the road, we are seeing a lot of debris, a lot of asphalt that is washing up, so there could be some other damaged areas. We did start boots on the ground operations about 8 a.m. this morning. And started about southwest of Hunt, so southwest of Camp Mystic. These folks will be traveling very difficult terrain up through Ingram, and we're going to start getting information. So again, as the sheriff had alluded to, the information is changing constantly, and it's going to be changing by the minute. Talked about roads. Don't do your own searches. We know everybody wants to get help. As the roads start clearing up, you're gonna want to get out there. We are in constant communication with families. We're in constant communication with those around, and so we will continue to effortlessly working with our partners. Again, we've been working with Border Patrol, Texas DPS, game wardens, federal side, U.S. Coast Guard is here. We want to thank them. Air assets. Again, we have hundreds of state and federal and local resources out here supporting this community. We do have grief counselors out there, so if there's anybody that needs any support, please don't hesitate to reach out as well. We still are operating shelters. Shelters are the same ones that we gave out before. Good news is a lot of the shelters have gone down in numbers, so there's either been those that have been reunited or kind of moving on. A couple of locations, we had 18 girls in there that have been reunited with their families. We're down to about 4 that we're working on reunification as well. So reunification efforts are continuously ongoing from the missing person side. Here over the next few hours, we're going to be putting more information out there as far as...
Okay, I don't want to watch the old shit. We're watching the new shit, chat. Sorry. I just wanted to get a sense of what the first report was. We're going to watch the new one.
We are getting breaking news out of Central Texas in Kerr County. We are getting breaking news out of Central Texas in Kerr County. Camp Mystic just released a statement about its campers and counselors. Let's get right to CNN anchor Pam Brown, who is nearby for the latest. Pam, what are you hearing?
This is the first time Camp Mystic is releasing a statement with a number of deaths. And in this statement, John, Camp Mystic says it is grieving the loss of 27 campers and counselors following the catastrophic flooding on the Guadalupe River. The statement goes on to say our hearts are broken alongside our families that are enduring this unimaginable tragedy. We are praying for them constantly. We have been in communication with local and state authorities who are tirelessly deploying extensive resources to search for our missing girls. We are deeply grateful for the outpouring of support from community, first responders, and officials at every level. We ask for your continued prayers, respect, and privacy for each of our families affected. May the Lord continue to wrap his presence around all of us. 27 young souls, these young campers, John, and young counselors. Remember, these counselors are teenagers for the most part. Many of them jumped into action. They were heroes. But as we are getting from this statement, some died as well. Camp Mystic did not say how many of those 27 were campers versus counselors, but presumably the bulk of them are campers. And I just can't stop thinking, John, that it was just a little over a week ago that parents dropped their young children off to have the best 4 weeks of their life at Camp Mystic, a camp I attended 30 years ago. And now some of those same parents are going to the local funeral home to potentially identify their child. It's just beyond comprehension, the heartbreak here. You feel it all around. John?
It just has to be overwhelming to be there, Pam. And again, this statement from Camp Mystic is really the first time we have heard them address fatalities. They're grieving the loss of 27 campers and counselors, I think confirming many of the worst fears that so many have been having there. Thank you for being there. Keep us posted. Obviously, this is developing, this news just coming in.
New reporting today, the long-held concerns in Kerr County over the ongoing flooding threat there. Records show that even 9 years ago, the county started considering building an early warning system, flood warning system, with sirens to better alert residents. In 2016, one county commissioner, according to meeting notes, said that the county was probably the highest risk area in the state for flooding, adding, "Our system is quite simply pretty antiquated," also saying it's marginal at best. And then a follow-up meeting a year later saying, "We can do all the water level monitoring we want, but if we don't get that information to the public in a timely way, then this whole thing is not worth it."
So they fire all the people whose job it is to warn people. And then they go, "Oh my God, how incompetent is the National Weather Service? They didn't have anyone to warn us." So, I mean, the big problem with the American government is that we need massive reform. We need radical reform. Now, when I say radical, radical does not mean bad, okay? Somewhere along the line, everybody is told in school that radical means bad. Radical doesn't mean bad. It means large. It means completely starting from the beginning. It's like buying a rotten old house and then bulldozing it in order to build a new house on the same land, or build an apartment building on the same land. Yes, that's radical. You could try to remodel the existing structure, but when the existing structure is no longer fit for purpose, all of us understand that bringing in a bulldozer and clearing out the old building is a good idea and will enhance all of our well-being. So why don't we have the same willingness when it comes to government? And I can tell you right now that the system of government the United States has is dog shit. The states don't make any sense. We should not, like, if you look at the states, Rhode Island and then California, and calling those equivalent is fucking stupid, and it's unjustifiable and illogical. And the only reason we do it is because of tradition. And to say that Rhode Island deserves the same level of political power in the Senate as California or Texas is absolutely fucking stupid. And I'm tired of pretending like it makes sense. It absolutely does not. Also, we have 3 levels of government. Most of the time, they are just waste. Why? We don't need state governments anymore. They're actually idiotic. We should restructure this country along regional lines. There is absolutely no reason for us to have state governments. And it causes all sorts of waste, fraud, and abuse, and bureaucratic duplication. A lot of people, why they don't even understand that Medicaid cuts affect them is because there's 50 different versions of Medicaid. Why the fuck do we have 50 different versions of Medicaid? Do you know how much waste that is? How much bureaucratic duplication that is? We should have one Medicaid, and it should cover you no matter where you live in America. That's fucking stupid. We should have one bureaucracy, call it Medicaid, and that be that. It's incredibly stupid to have 50 state bureaucracies, and we do this on all sorts of stuff. It's dumb as fuck. And this is the kind of stuff that a actually competent political movement would be calling for. But we don't have any competent political leaders in this country because people just go, no, people like the 50 states, and then they turn their brain off. And it's like, do you? I've lived in Virginia, Florida, Colorado, Pennsylvania, California, Nevada. I mean, like, and this is a abridged list, okay? Like, I've lived in a lot of states, okay? I don't give a shit about any of them other than Pennsylvania, which is the best state. A lot of well-off Texans I know have been leaving since the election for safety, but it feels wrong. If you've got the means and privilege, should you stay and fight? My general feeling is this, and I'm going to be honest with you. I will never judge someone for moving their family to a place they can thrive. That's just normal behavior. That's normal behavior. But I'm not going to give up on fighting for what's right for the people that can't afford to do the same.
The county's top elected official said Friday they still don't have a warning system with sirens, and a local city manager then said this yesterday.
We know questions are being asked about the emergency notification, and while it is not the time to speculate, local and regional partners are committed to a full review of the events and systems in place. At the appropriate time, we will take clear steps to strengthen our future preparedness.
Joining us right now is CNN senior national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. She's also a former assistant secretary at the Department of Homeland Security. For much more on this, Juliette, there is some of what is known, a lot of what is not, because of just the scope and magnitude of this disaster. You heard that city manager promising a review. You heard that from other officials as well. But seeing the level of destruction that these floods brought, how fast it happened, has left many officials saying that there's nothing that could have prevented something like this. Do you see it that way?
Well, with all due respect, no. And I don't like the fatalist.
By the way, chat. By the way, remember what happened to that fucking cuck libertarian? Well, this person has what's known as an education and subject matter expertise.
Attitude about disaster management preparation. Flash floods happen often. Bad flash floods happen often. And we have to learn about what happened here because of the devastating impact that this has had on that community that it hasn't had in other communities. Because we look at this comparatively, right? I mean, we're hitting, I don't know if we're at 100 yet, but this is a mass casualty event that we don't generally see. So there's three focuses of this study, and I'm grateful that the Kirk County is committed to this. The first is notifications that something bad is happening. As we've seen from National Weather Service, those notifications were getting more and more frantic overnight. It is nighttime, it's a holiday weekend, but those were occurring. The second is the connectivity between those alerts and someone doing something. Alerts aren't self-executing. You need emergency managers, locals, camp counselors, trailer park owners, all of them to know what's going on. And then the third is, are people acting in response to this? There is a breakdown. We know that. And we know that because of the impact on one particular place, Camp Mystic. I mean, if you look at the numbers, which is what we have to do, we owe it to the dead and those girls, you know, you have to look why at this particular camp, what happened in terms of notification and readiness. And that is the review that we have to do, apolitical, so that we're committed to being ready for the next one and more lives can be saved next time.
And as another official said this morning, it's something, when people say it's something I've never seen anything like this, it is something, saying those words is something that people are going to have to get more and more used to saying because of the nature of the climate crisis, the effects of which we're already seeing: harsher, faster, bigger flooding. And that also impacts preparation for, which is exactly kind of what you're getting at. It's as the ball game changes, they all need to start looking at it a slightly different way. And part of, and Elena was talking about this, there are questions being raised about the impacts, the role of the federal government in this preparation. And
you have to understand the nature of conservatism is to just worship hierarchy. And they don't believe in perfecting the earth. I want you guys to understand this. This is a very basic point that you need to understand. They have a religious belief that this is a fallen world and that the pain and suffering we experience all stems from the original sin of Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge. This is literally true. And so if you believe that we can like make society better by doing things and passing laws and building systems, they think you are a heretical Satan worshiper. They think that the only way earth can be perfected is in Jesus Christ's 1,000-year reign after he comes back to earth, after the resurrection. This is literally true. I don't know if you know this, chat, but these people believe that when Jesus Christ comes back, they'll fight Armageddon with the Antichrist. All of the evil people will be thrown into hell, and all evil souls will be destroyed in cosmic punishment. And then there will be a 1,000-year reign of utopia on earth before we all ascend into heaven. Okay? This is what they literally believe. Okay? And so when you say stuff like, well, we could pass this policy or we could do this, and it could reduce harm, they don't even believe what you're saying. In fact, one of my favorite creators, although he's really bad at managing money, is Innuendo Studios. He specifically talked about this. Let me see if I can pull up the Let me see if I can pull up the I honestly, God, oh man, it's crazy. It's crazy. Oh man, what is it with that generation? Can I just do a rant for 5 seconds? What is it with that generation of YouTubers and just like they make one video a year and then they like collapse in a fucking on a fainting couch for 12 months? Like what is it? What? Like I get, is the camera moving? No, do you want it? Oh, it is. It is moving. I'm sorry, I gestured to turn it on. It tracks me now. Like if I'm just like, fuck this shit, and I get up, it'll track me out of the room. Anyway, okay, sorry for that distraction. Let's watch this and then I'll fix it.
Kind of the nature of the federal government cuts that the administration is putting in place. Still, one local in Travis County, the local judge there was just on Speaking to John and said that his first question coming out of this tragedy, and they did lose about a half dozen lives in Travis County, the first question coming out of this is, what is the future of the National Weather Service? Let me play this for you.
The first question I have is funding for the National Weather Service and for FEMA going to continue? Because my team, we have meetings throughout the day with the sheriff's office, with EMS, with firefighters, first responders. Every single one of those meetings starts with an update from the National Weather Service. They are an absolute critical partner to what we do. We could not do this without them.
There have been some local officials who have pointed the finger at the Weather Service, saying that the amount of rain that fell in certain locations was never in any of the forecasts at all. But without a direct connection, even in the absence of it, how do you see this?
So, and I'm glad Andy Brown.
I thought they were getting rid of FEMA. I thought Trump wanted to get rid of FEMA completely. Is it FEMA on the chopping block?
Mentioned this for people who've never been in an emergency operations center. You have these briefings every hour, every 2 hours as the crisis is ongoing. And if it's a weather related event, the National Weather Service starts that meeting and says, here's what we're seeing. I mean, it's intelligence. I mean, you wouldn't go to war without having intelligence guide what you're seeing on the ground. That's what the National Weather Service is. And so everyone's going to look for that light bulb or that missing link, that if only this had happened, everyone would be safe. Disaster management doesn't work that way. We have to, it's a totality of efforts that go to minimizing harm. We judge it by if things can be less bad. That's essentially it, because bad things are happening. National Weather Service, NOAA, FEMA are all part of that. And while we can debate what happened this time, I think everyone needs to take a step back and realize that our investments in preparing these communities to climate disasters, we don't even debate climate change, is a commitment that we owe these children, but it's what government is about. This is when people need government, when their homes are destroyed, their children are lost, and we need to reinvest in that preparedness. And I'm going to be a little bit personal here. I wrote a book called The Devil Never Sleeps about sort of ongoing large disasters, but it actually is a line from a woman who's very faithful from Joplin, Missouri. They lost over 100 people in a tornado over a decade ago. But the second part of her line is more important. So the devil never sleeps, but he only wins if we don't do better next time.
And here's the thing, conservatives don't believe you can do better next time. This is where Innuendo Studios video is very good at explaining it.
And today is that the conservative thinks about people dying of preventable illnesses, school shootings, and back alley abortions the way you think about Mondays. The conservative mindset tends to sort things into binaries with no room for scale. Mass shootings either happen or they don't. You can talk about how much safer countries with robust gun control are, and they'll just say, here's a shooting that happened in England. Here's a shooting that happened in Australia. Gun control didn't stop them. You can't regulate evil. And this is the kind of sentence that can drive you up the wall, because it is, on its face, obviously true, but it's only applicable in this context thanks to the word that's implied but not stated. You can't regulate all evil. Yes, since they've had gun control, there have been shootings in England and Australia. Does it matter that these shootings are far less deadly and happen far less often? Does it matter that making guns harder to get has saved tens of thousands of lives? Like, do we really need to explain why stores put junk food you know you shouldn't buy right next to the checkout counter? because the easier it is to do a thing, the more it happens. The mentality here is that if you can't stop every shooting, you shouldn't bother stopping any. If you can't save every life, there's no point improving healthcare. Nothing short of literally defeating death will be good enough. It is a wholesale rejection of thinking in terms of systems. Notice how Payroll phrases his argument, a bad person can always find a way to do bad things. Person. Singular. If a criminal can still get a gun, they extrapolate that every criminal can get a gun, in the same way that if a poor person can get a job, every poor person can get a job. Which, no! If there are fewer jobs than people who need them, there's going to be unemployment. And if there are fewer guns than people who want to shoot them, there's going to be less gun crime. If they talked about populations of people, they'd have to acknowledge that some percentage succeeds at doing bad things, and a percentage fails. And since percentages are different across cultures, we must have some influence over them. But a binaristic model of things either happen or they don't leaves no room for percentages. Was there a shooting? Then there is still evil in the world. A conservative will generally agree with you about what the ills of society are. Bigotry, violence, disease, oppression, poverty.
Well, they won't agree with you about bigotry being bad anymore because, they've gone down. The fascism is growing, so they actually think bigotry is good. Because the solution to the ills of society is to get rid of the bad people, and they can figure out who the bad people are by their skin color or their national origin.
But they don't view them as problems to be solved. They are facts of life. Of course, racism is terrible, but it's a Monday. Trying to fight racism is like trying to fight the first law of motion. The only reason to even talk about it is to commiserate. Besides, if we didn't have bad white people, how would we know we're the good ones? Morality to them is not about fighting evil. It is a set of shared opinions on what evil is. When bad things happen, we sit around agreeing that they are bad, and anyone who says otherwise, we excommunicate. That's what talking about tragedy is for. And I think it's why they get so mad at us when we politicize tragedies, as in, when yet another shooting happens, we talk about what could be done to prevent them.
Or a flood, right? Like another flood happens and we're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have cut the National Weather Service and we should have more robust early warning systems, and maybe we should have regulations about the type of structures or buildings that are in floodplains. Maybe we should have, some systems or requirements in place if you're going to have, say, a summer camp on a floodplain, that you make sure the children have to go through a procedure in case there is a flash flood warning, right? Like they say, that's regulation. You're driving up the cost of summer camp. Now only rich people can afford summer camp.
It's not just that they refuse to do anything about the problem, though it is definitely that. It's that we're not participating in the ritual of thoughts and prayers. Solemnity is how we perform our morals after a crisis. How do they know where we stand if we don't participate? If evil can't be regulated, but we're saying guns can, are we saying the shooting wasn't evil? And on its face, this seems completely contradictory to all the other things they claim to believe. Sometimes you want to scream at Payroll. How can you think regulating guns won't reduce shootings, but somehow regulating women will reduce abortions? But here's the real kicker. He doesn't.
The thing about conservatives, they don't, and this is the important point. When they want to ban something, it's not because they're trying to reduce it, they're trying to criminalize it. They're trying to label you a bad person and a criminal so that they can sanction you. It's not even really about reducing harm. It's about social opprobrium.
He doesn't think illegalizing abortions will make them happen less. What he wants is to throw people in jail for getting them.
There you go.
It's right there in how he talks about gun rights. Why should I be punished for the crimes of a monster? To him, the law isn't about shaping society. It's about who gets punished. In this view, human nature is immutable. People are going to be gay and do crime and get abortions and take drugs. And the law is not there to guide. It is there to judge. It is there to sanctify one particular walk of life as the right way. The reason they're opposed to contraceptives and sex ed is not because they don't work, but because they shouldn't work. It doesn't even matter that kids who get abstinence-only education have just as much sex as the ones who learn about condoms. Acknowledging that teenagers have sex is saying it's okay. and abstinence says it's not. And if it doesn't work, it's because you're just not trying hard enough. More abstinence, more abstinence. It's nothing to do with the way the world is, but the way they want it to present. As the philosopher Taylor Schwiesel once said, shade never made anybody less gay. But if shade crams all the queer people back into the closet, that's how it will look to straight folks. The goal is to communicate which types of people have to fear law enforcement and which get to admire them. And once you see the conservative view of laws and customs as mapping a path we are meant to walk and punishing deviation, you start to see why we have a religious right and not so much a religious left. It describes a world drenched in sin that cannot be cleansed from the inside, but walk the path, you might save yourself. Punish those who stray, you might save them as well. And you can see how talking in terms of systemic problems and harm reduction just bounces off of that. It's like saying it's better to die with one unconfessed mortal sin on your soul than 7. Nope, you're still going to hell. And what good is it to talk about populations? This is about you. Evil exists to test your integrity. When your soul is judged at the gates of heaven, you will stand alone. And if God still hasn't rewarded your faithfulness, you must not have been pious enough. More piety, more piety. This is not to say that reactionary conservatives in the US are just a pack of Catholics. In fact, they're quite the trail mix. We got Protestants, pagans, a surprising number of atheists. Maybe you're familiar with the term Christian atheist? I don't mean the school of philosophy that's about following the teachings of Christ but not believing in his divinity, but colloquially, the philosophy of I don't believe in God, but the God I don't believe in is Jehovah.
Okay, we're going a little bit beyond what I wanted to talk about, but this is basically the way conservatives govern. And this is why conservatism fails and why all the red states are dog shit. Let me give you another example from Michael Moore's Where to Invade Next, talking specifically about sex ed.
Il y a trop de risques. Il y a trop de risques.
Too risky? What does she mean by that?
A small high school in West Texas that does not offer sex education is dealing with an STD outbreak.
A significant rise in STDs among Utah teens.
Parents can always preach abstinence, but teens, we know, don't always listen.
A chlamydia outbreak.
Chlamydia.
Why does Texas continue with abstinence education programs when they don't seem to be working? In fact, I think we have the 3rd highest teen pregnancy rate in the country among all the states.
Abstinence works.
But we are the 3rd highest teen pregnancy. We have the 3rd highest teen pregnancy rate among all states in the country. The questioner's point is, it doesn't seem to be working.
I'm going to tell you from my own personal life, abstinence works.
Et je pense que vous avez un taux de grossesse chez les jeunes adolescentes qui est bien plus élevé que nous.
The teen pregnancy rate in the United States is more than twice France's rate, more than 6 times Germany's, and more than 7 times than the Swiss.
D'où la nécessité de l'information.
Yes, education. I grabbed a copy of their high school textbook, Love Making is Fun, Volume 1, packed up a few of their school lunches.
Basically, when you understand that this is how conservatives see the world, which is you're making arguments about facts and logic and shit. They're not engaging with that. In fact, they think engaging with that is satanic. They think that you are a piece of shit for doing that, right? There are no conservatives who are care about like empirical fact, okay? They do not exist unless they are the type of conservatives who are directly benefiting. How do I know this? Well, because I have been debating conservatives for over 10 years, and they are uninterested in empirical fact. And fundamentally, if you do get a conservative to start talking about empirical facts, do you know where it goes within 30 seconds of you start talking about policies and things like that? Do you know where it goes within 30 seconds? I want you to guess. Flip, emo, with the 3-point shot, the answer is racism. They start saying, well, that's because that area has less black people. 100% of the time. Now, if you actually dig in and look into the facts, and it turns out that actually, no, they don't have black people, or actually, no, foreign births are actually higher in this area, they just shut down. say fake news and leave the conversation. Sort of like that libertarian guy from earlier today. Remember how he came in and said I was spreading misinformation, and then I brought up my immediate New York Times article, and then he said he was a libertarian, and then I started talking about libertarians and what they believe, and notice how he left immediately? Because he wasn't expecting me to actually talk about what he thinks and make arguments on the point. He's a brainwashed dope. And that's actually why Asmongold doesn't debate me, or why Asmongold and Destiny don't debate us. They run away because they don't want to have to actually debate leftists on the facts. They can't do it. So what does it become? It becomes attacking us personally. Did you know Hassan went to a brothel? A legal brothel in Germany? 20 years ago or whatever, not 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever he was, you know, and he admitted it. He talked about why he supports sex work and he thinks prostitution should be legal and regulated. Well, now they're going to abuse like rad femme anti-sex work arguments to try to do what? Throw dirt on him. They don't think prostitution should be illegal. Do you think Destiny and his community think prostitution should be banned? If they don't think prostitution should be banned, why are they trying to smear Hassan's name? It's because they don't care about anything. They're just trying, they have a goal, which is to damage Hassan's credibility. They don't want to make actual arguments on the facts about any point. Now, I have never paid for sex. I gotta say, I'm not a germaphobe, but that sounds, for some reason, it just sounds icky to me. Maybe that makes me like, I just don't want to have sex with someone just to perform the act. You know what I mean? Like that's not what I like. But I think that sex work should be legal and regulated. That's my personal opinion. That seems to be the best policy to minimize the harm of sex work in society. Sex work is one of the oldest professions in human history. People have been exchanging sex for resources since the beginning of time. I don't think the strategy to defeat it is to ban sex work. I think the strategy is to make it as legal, regulated, and above board as possible, and build a social safety net where nobody has to do sex work in order to live a dignified life. That's how I think that you reduce the harms of it as much as possible. And I think people should kind of be made fun of for buying sex. I think it's fucking, you know, I think you should make fun of Johns. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Kind of lame. But I don't think that it should be banned and people punished, because that seems to just push it underground. I think like, you know, I think it being mildly socially, like, you know, people don't really like it. That's totally, I think that's the best strategy. But I don't think that you should be going after sex workers. I don't think that you should be trying to put them in prison. I don't think you should be trying to force it underground. And I think criminalizing Johns does that as well. I don't think you should criminalize them, because I think that forces people underground. And that's where the shady shit happens. That's just my personal take on sex work. I want the pod Johns. What's a John? It just means a person who purchases sex or sex work. Cop term? No, it's not. Sex work would work with appropriate safety nets. The only problem with sex work for me is people engaging in it are desperate and there's power imbalance. Oh, well, that's every job. That's every job. Every job is a tribute replay to biology. Every job, unless we have a completely no strings attached social safety net that provides for everybody's dignified needs, all jobs require a certain level of coercion, right? Which is, if you don't work, you don't eat. Real conservatism is fundamentally Nick Land accelerationist nihilism. They want the ecstatic release of total annihilation. It's a pure base desire to sadistically denigrate the other as motivation in and of itself. Does anybody have that clip of Peter Thiel not saying he thinks humanity should continue to exist? Please, someone, like, legitimately, I do think that Peter Thiel is a threat to humanity. Like, I think that the entire kind of like Silicon Valley techno nihilism is a threat to humanity, and we've got to take away their power immediately.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
I mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe. But is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation? The entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted.
This isn't the clip I was talking about.
This is my you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit in this.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
There's nothing more demonic than calling for the destruction of humanity. I think there's an element of our discussion of politics that has become impoverished, where conservatism is ill-named. They're not conservatives. They're hierarchists. They're domination. They're domination fetishists. They're not conserving anything. A conservative would want to protect and conserve that which we have, which is our social relations, our environment, our familial relations. These conservatives, Peter Thiel is not conservative about anything. In fact, he wants to annihilate all that is and all that we believe and turn it into a fucking cog for a machine of death. And it's the algorithm of capitalism's and its ruthless pursuit of short-term profit that has got us to this point. This class of people has to be contained by any means necessary. This is a demonic force of evil. And of course he got here by making Western Union on the internet. I did Western Union on the internet, and then eBay users picked my website as the paying platform. So now I should say humanity should be exterminated while I set up an authoritarian AI that searches every single post this person makes. 80 dead and 41 missing in Texas.
One of the most important things that we can do is to address their greatest concern. And that is there are so many families that are still waiting to learn about their loved one. And we are working 24/7 to get the information that will be able to answer their question. What I can tell you is several things. I had the opportunity yesterday to visit Camp Mystic and get to see firsthand what happened there, as well as all the way downstream after that. And it was nothing short of horrific to see what those young children went through. And we will remain 100% dedicated, searching for every single one of the children who were at Camp Mystic, as well as anybody else in the entire riverbed, to make sure that they're going to be recovered. We know that parents and families, they want information, they want closure, and we want them to know that we are working as swiftly as possible to get them accurate information that will provide that closure.
It's so crazy that Greg Abbott is famous because he got rich from suing someone for a car accident, and then he passed laws to make it so you can't sue people. You have a maximum cap on what money you can get when somebody injures you. No, wait, a tree fell on him. You're right, a tree fell on him. Sorry. God, you just barely missed. That's why it wasn't God, Chad. It was a tree spirit. The tree spirit was it could sense his malevolence. It's like he went into Fanghorn Forest and they tried to drop on his head. The Lorax was angered, yeah. All right, hold on. Let's where did he say 80 dead? Hold on. I don't want to watch this whole shit, chat. I can't. He didn't say it. Did he not actually say dead? Okay. We know that some deaths in Kerrville were people who died. What?
To their death. We know that some deaths in Kerrville were people who died, who got swept away, who were trying to evacuate. And so local officials know the best about the terrain, about the danger spots and things like that, about who might be able to evacuate, those that would just be getting into a more dangerous situation.
You talked, in what you just said, kind of about expertise and about just knowing the area, and that extends also to the National Weather Service folks who are in those offices and have years and years of experience. There are currently 6 vacancies in the local, the National Weather Service office that cover Kerr County. What is your perspective on how that could have impacted the warnings that you all were able to get and how accurate the information you all were able to get?
So I know nothing about the staffing. What I do know is what they put out. And it's my understanding that what they put out was kind of the information that the state was operating off of, and that is that there were alerts or warnings about heavy rain, potential for flash flooding in certain areas. A problem with that is that to most people in the area, flash flooding would mean one thing, not what it turned out to be, because they deal with flash floods all the time. Just like I put people on notice in these regions of Texas right now. There's the potential for flash flooding, but there's no expectation of a water wall of almost 30 feet high.
Governor Abbott, on that topic, we know that these alerts can be life-saving at times, and a lot of times these forecasters get their information from the National Weather Service. Are you communicating with your federal partners on how critical funding is for the National Weather Service in order to issue alerts like this and this disaster like this?
It's one of the things that we spoke about when Secretary Noem was in, and this is part of ongoing conversations. And I'll add this. As you all probably know, we have a special session coming up, and the way to respond to like what happened in Kerrville is going to be a topic for the special session to address.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Is part of what you want to address, because there was a bill that was going to create a council to kind of talk about what warning systems, and it was not successful.
There was a once in a 1,000-year flood in North Carolina as well. We need to stop saying once in a 1,000-year. It causes people to be stupid. It actually causes people to be stupid. That's not what that actually means. All right? Like, that's it. To explain something, that is an engineering term of art that is being abused by people that are not intelligent. And I'm not going to allow people... Don't use it anymore, man. You don't understand what it is. You don't understand what it means. Okay? Statistically, we are going to expect to see these kind of outlier events every year. And the once in a 1,000-year is also referring to a certain baseline, which we no longer exist in because of climate change and climactic change. So these like terms of art, you need to stop using them because you don't understand what they're actually mean or what they're for. And it actually makes people think that these events, well, one of them happened. I guess we won't see any more events like this. And that's not the case. It's an engineering term of art. It refers to a specific location and the bounds of probability for certain type of climactic events within a specific location. It doesn't mean in the entire world 1 in 1,000 years. Okay, it's talking about it's a fixed point on the earth and saying on this very specific point within at least once in 1,000 years we expect this bound with 95% confidence interval to take place. If you don't know what I mean when I say this, stop using it. You don't get it. It's actually making you dumber. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have is a lot of charlatans pretend to understand shit they have never studied. Now, I studied civil engineering in college a little bit. Enough to be dangerous. Okay? So at least enough to understand what I do not know. Right? But you have people that do fucking Google searches and then speak confidently. We need you to stop. We need you to fucking stop. Okay? Also, something really funny just happened on my Twitter and I want to show you. As we gather the full scale of the tragedy of the floods in Texas, the death toll is likely over 100. Remember that just last month, Ezra Klein was advocating following the Houston model of removing regulations on housing and building on floodplains. At Grok, did Ezra Klein really say that? Yes. Ezra Klein has praised Houston's model of minimal zoning regulations for enabling more housing supply and affordability, as detailed in his 2025 book Abundance and New York Times pieces. He hasn't explicitly advocated for building on floodplains, though Houston's approach allows it. Thanks, Grok. Fuck. Let me just say, as somebody who lives in Louisiana, has lived through multiple record-setting hurricanes and floods, the government deserves to be dusted for the simple fact that Waffle House Index has been used for decades. Despite us being the richest nation in history, the government must be rebirthed from the ground up. Yes, I know. Because you studied a little bit and you know all about charlatans, that we should trust you, right? See, the reason why you should trust me is I explained what it was explicitly and in such a way that you can check. Right? You could take what I just said to an engineer and say, is this right? And they'll say yes. And if an engineer comes back and says, actually, Mike, you got this and this wrong, then I'll go, oh, okay. What can you tell me what I got wrong? And then I'll correct myself in the future. Right? That's why you could trust me. I'm not just Googling shit off the top of my and, you know, reading it to you and pretending like I have discernment just because I'm confident. I actually studied this shit and worked in public policy. A 100 or 1,000 year storm just refer to the inches of rains or intensity that happen in a 24-hour period. Doesn't mean they happen every 100 or 1,000 years. Okay. You're gonna get yourself more confused.
The second IFOA report, entitled Climate Scorpion, showing how the probability of severe flooding has also shifted over time. So-called black swan events that were regarded as vanishingly unlikely back in 1980 are now slammed.
Why aren't you working there still? I mean, that's a good question. The answer is I am incredibly wealthy doing this instead. That's the answer. The answer is I make more now making a show because there's an extremely high demand for a knowledgeable political talk show. So the reason why I do this is, unlike most other streamers, I'm making good money here. So in fact, I'm making more than I would if I was an attorney. So I make the show because it gives me complete freedom over my life, and I'm serving a very important function, which is education, political education. And this is one of the things that we on the left are missing. There are not enough people like me that exist in the American political space. And so my work is directly affecting what people believe is possible. So because I have the experiences that I have, and I have the personality to make a show like this, I'm doing it because I see the need. I'm fulfilling a niche that I see. And because of the quirks of the market, I'm using the master's tools against them. Because they are allowing this open social media platform and helping me build a system where my viewers could directly support me, and then they recommend my stream to viewers who are similar to me or would be interested in my type of content, they're actually helping me organize people all over the world. And like at this point, you know, I think that having voices like mine who have their foot in public policy, who have their foot in real politics, but also understand the internet, it's very rare to have somebody who's capable of doing both. And so I'm serving that very important bridge between pure political entertainment and political organizing. And that's where I see my role. So that's why I do this. And it gives me more freedom. It gives me the ability to not have to work a schedule dictated by someone else. It allows me to have the best possible life. So there's an element of self-interest here, obviously. Like, I like to be happy. Surprise, surprise, right? I am, so there's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I am what's known as a profoundly happy person. So I have all of my physiological needs met, which is air, water, food, shelter. I have all my safety needs met: personal security, health and well-being, stable environment, financial security, safety nets. I have all my love and belonging needs met. I have family, friendship, community, romantic relationships, group membership, affection, and intimacy. I have esteem, self-respect, confidence, respect from others, reputation, recognition, and achievement. So like I have everything that's externally oriented. And so I'm focused on this last portion of the pyramid, which is self-actualization, which is realizing one's full potential, creativity, personal growth, moral development, pursuit of meaning, purpose-driven action, peak experience, joy, transcendence, and insight. This is where I'm at, right? I'm at the self-actualization part of happiness. And so my goal in life is to get, and my purpose-driven action is to get as many of you up here as I can. My life goal is to take care of all this shit for the rest of you, or to help build systems that as many of you can fulfill this so you can get up here too. And the way that I'm trying to do that is by building a system that will tax people like me, because we, and people richer than me, and help build permanent systems to care for your physiological needs, your safety needs, and build systems and organizations to help you with love and belonging and esteem. This is my self-actualization, is to put my hand down and pull the rest of you up if I can. That's my goal. And because I am constantly trying to help others, I have a profound happiness that you'll never reach. Because you're still down you're so down in the pyramid that you're not even on my level, where you think I'm like foolish because I've achieved a level of happiness you will never achieve, because in part of your selfish and self-centered worldview. That's what kind of fucks you over and keeps you trapped down on the pyramid. It's my noblesse oblige, chat.
Bang in the middle of the 2030 probability curve. And the new
okay, Mike, we get it. You're rich. I'm not rich. I'm not rich. I'm not a millionaire or anything like that. I am, because of the support of so many good people here, I have become more financially stable, which then allows me to speak the truth about stuff more. Because I'm not chasing sponsorship money, because I don't have to get ads, I can actually give you good analysis without worrying about losing my money and losing my job and losing my home. Because you guys have made me decently well off, assuming you keep doing it, assuming I keep my subscribers, I'm able to do better political analysis because I'm not worrying about those external pressures. I still have to constrain myself somewhat because I'm on a platform owned by billionaires. They have rules, so I am censored in certain aspects, but that's why exaggerating about money like every other tale he spins. It's not even a flex. I just tell the truth. I'm transparent. It's very funny how people get so mad when you tell the truth. It's so funny how people get mad when you tell the truth. Like, they get so mad when you're truthful. I don't get it. They think, you're telling the truth, you grifter. You're supposed to pretend to be poor like the other streamers who make 10 times as much as me. I saw this Rev anime guy's tweet about Hassad is completely misinformed and slandering. What's insane is that I've seen more left-leaning believe the tweet is true. Well, then you got to get in there and correct them. Shouldn't you be... Wait, what was the question that this guy asked? Hold on. Oh, a treasure train. Holy chat. Chat. Mike, you can link it to me, Timmy. A treasure train. For a limited time, we can get 35% off gifted subs at level 5 during this train. So if we hit level 5, all further gifted subs will be 35% off. All right, so we need to get to... Let's quickly get to level 5 on the treasure train. Holy shit, I get to get even more money. Let's fucking go. Okay, what was the question somebody asked? They're using the classic skin tone card. Yeah. Okay, not okay. The difference between this is not a real gun. This is a real gun. You're allowed to show guns on stream, right? I don't want to crack into my gun safe on stream. Hold on. Never mind. I don't want to crack into my gun safe on stream. Let's just say you're never catching me slipping. I always got that blicky. Isn't there one streamer whose background is his arsenal of guns? Yeah, that's Destiny, which is very funny. Speaking of that, chat, do you want to see the funniest thing that's ever happened? So the legal mindset guy, look at this, chat. This is the funniest thing. So for years and years and years and years, Destiny has been saying, and his fans have been saying, I lied about calling myself a lawyer. Look at what legal mindset just said. This is incredible. This may be the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It made me laugh so fucking hard. Hold on.
About the law or what words mean. A lawyer is anybody with a law degree, whether or not they're licensed and practice law. So anybody who's gone to law school is indeed a lawyer. Now, attorney is someone above lawyer. You could say that word is perhaps not interchangeable, but similarly related insofar as they are not only a lawyer, not only do they have a law degree, but an attorney has to be licensed to practice in their state. I'm licensed to practice in the state of Florida. So I am both a lawyer and an attorney above that. So thinking about that logically as a little bit of education, all attorneys are lawyers, but not all lawyers are attorneys.
This is actually correct. This is literally correct. He is right. Now, if you don't know my deep lore, basically, when I was running for office, I had just graduated from law school, but I decided I didn't want to go pursue the law. And on my petitions to be on the Democratic Party ballot, for some reason, they also said I ran as a Republican, which is also not true. The Democratic Party put for my profession lawyer. Now, I got sued by the Republicans because they were trying to deny me my position on the ballot in the Democratic Party primary so they could run a write-in campaign so that the Republican state rep could win the Republican and Democratic nomination. You can get what's called a dual nomination in Pennsylvania. If you win, you can only be on the ballot of one primary, but you can win the other party primary via write-in. So like you could only be on the ballot of the party that you belong to, right? In state level races in Pennsylvania. So the Republican was trying to wage a campaign to be nominated by both parties. And so they sued me to try to get me off the ballot. And they said, oh, he lied about, he lied about being a lawyer, right? And I won. Now, I didn't make this petition. And the profession section doesn't mean anything. It never meant anything. But the Democratic Party created the petitions for me, and they put that as my profession informationally, which is fine. I was just graduated law school. And they sued me saying, oh, no, you can't call yourself a lawyer. And I won at the trial court level. Then they appealed it to the appellate court level. The appellate court said there is a distinction between lawyer and attorney, and he never held himself out as a practicing attorney or practicing lawyer. You can call yourself that at the appellate court level. They sued me up to the Republican-dominated Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which then created new law and said, actually, we are now saying from now on, only people who have an active bar license can say they're a lawyer in Pennsylvania. And so they threw me and a retired attorney off the ballot who was running in the Republican primary for governor. There was a retired attorney who had put lawyer on his profession as well, and they threw him off the ballot. So they threw me off the ballot as a law school graduate and him off the ballot as a retired attorney. They said only active people with a current bar card are allowed to say that lawyer or law is their profession on this section of the petitions. Therefore, you tricked everybody. And you lied and you tricked everyone. Now, this decision was made up. They made it up. There was precedent for what I had said. And it doesn't matter. Okay, so I got thrown off the ballot for that. They declared my petitions invalid. Do you know what happened 2 weeks later? The Democrats in my area were so pissed off that I immediately won a write-in campaign. And thank you, everybody, for all the subs. I don't know why my sub goal is broken. My sub goal is broken. I don't know why this is broken. I'm just going to turn it off for today. It didn't matter. I immediately waged a write-in campaign. I won the write-in primary easily. So 2 weeks later, I won the primary as a write-in candidate, which is very hard to do. Very rarely happens. And I was on the ballot. I was back on the ballot. So for years and years and years, Destiny has been trying to smear my name by saying I, quote, lied about being a lawyer. At no point did I ever say I was a practicing attorney. And so this is the context of why this is so funny, because the legal mindset guy came on here 2 days ago and inadvertently debunked one of Destiny's biggest slanders against me for years.
About the law or what words mean. A lawyer is anybody with a law degree, whether or not they're licensed and practice law. So anybody who's gone to law school is indeed a lawyer. Now, attorney is someone above lawyer. You could say that word is perhaps not interchangeable, but similarly related insofar as they are not only a lawyer, not only do they have a law degree, but an attorney has to be licensed to practice in their state. I'm licensed to practice in the state of Florida. So I am both a lawyer and an attorney above that.
I'm sure he would talk to you about this. Would you ever shit on him in a convo? It's free views and click. Why would I talk to a fucking sex criminal, serial harasser who says he wants his fans to kill me or for me to kill myself? What the fuck are you? Are you insane? He's a sex criminal. Now, I debated him 6 years ago, 8 separate times. You can go watch our political disagreements. Is there some political disagreement that you think we didn't cover at our previous debates? He's also banned off Twitch, my main platform. So I would be doing what? Going to create him content for YouTube? Are you fucking stupid? You issued a bounty. No, I didn't. Issuing a bounty would be like, for example, saying, I will pay X money if somebody kills so-and-so. That's a bounty. I never said that. That's not a bounty, which is why I'm not banned on Twitch. Do you think I have some sort of super influence over the CEO of Twitch? You fucking dumbass. Like, literally, you implied it. Wait, so I didn't do it? So you're saying you read it into what I was saying? So wait, so why did you say the first thing? Why did you repeat a slander if you know it's not true? Mike, you said you wanted to kill someone. Well, you implied you wanted to kill them. It's a completely different sentence, you dumb fuck. Goalpost shifting, moving at the speed of light. And this is why Destiny lost those debates to me. In fact, this is what it sounded like after we did a debate. And this is just for you. Every time a DGGer comes in here, I like to make fun of them and remind them, this is what your daddy said after he debated with me. Are you ready? Are you ready to hear what your little daddy said?
I really enjoy this guy's perspective, and he seems to have a huge amount of knowledge about electoral politics. Now electoral politics are way more interesting to me, and this guy seems to have a good backing.
All right, this is a new account. You can only post here on your old account. You can only post here on your old account. Log into your old account. You're not allowed to post on an account you made just to troll in my chat. You have to post on your main. So, bitch ass fucking loser. Again, you've got nothing. I'm on a 2012 account. Okay, cool. we got some Fallout content, and we have a little bit of League content. Let's see your Hanzo play. Chat, this must be a good person. He's hitting the headshots. Oh, hell yeah! He just aced. This guy is awesome. Okay, this is definitely not a Destiny fan. There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. This guy's based. Everyone subscribe to Trouble 50s. Shit, this guy is cracked. Good gameplay. Good gameplay. That was a good Hanzo ult. You cooked. See, people think I'm gonna always be mean to people, and it's like, no, if you're on your old account and that I find a cracked video of you doing good gameplay, I'm not gonna make fun of you. All right, let's keep going.
Swans carry a level of catastrophic.
He also had a League video, chat. He had a Baron video, but I watched the Overwatch video instead.
Consequence that would have been simply unthinkable just 40 odd years ago. But here's where we start getting the first hints of divergence between the JP Morgan Chase report and the IFOA report. The takeaway from the JP Morgan temperature chart says this: global emissions are still growing following scenarios to temperatures above 2C, not declining. A 1.5C global temperature milestone has been reached. A linear trend line from 1950 projects global temperatures above 1.5C by the 2040s. But according to just about every notable climate scientist that I've been listening to for the last 8 years or so, projecting a linear or straight line path of temperature changes into the future is a very unwise thing to do indeed. Take this chart, for example, from the IFOA Climate Scorpion report. What this is showing is the range and likelihood of atmospheric temperature changes going all the way up to 10 degrees Celsius in the very most pessimistic scenario. And by the way, just to give you a bit of relative perspective on that, it was a temperature increase of just 5 degrees Celsius that provided enough energy to shift our entire planet out of the last ice age and into the Holocene period that we humans have enjoyed for the last 10,000 years or so. Here's climate scientist Johan Rockström speaking at a recent TED Talk.
And we've had a 10,000-year period where our civilizations have developed, where we've had an enormous privilege of a planet at 14 degrees Celsius plus minus 0.5 degrees Celsius. That's the Holocene since we left the last ice age. And if you look 3 million years back, we never exceeded 2 degrees Celsius. That's the warmest temperature on Earth during the entire Quaternary. The coldest point, minus 5 degrees Celsius, ice age. I call this the corridor of life.
Even the JP Morgan Chase report has to concede that the combined stated climate policies of all the world's nations, if implemented in full, are projected to take us to 2.7 degrees Celsius in the next 70 years. But just resting on that assumption and advocating for a stronger adaptation policy is not really good enough for properly responsible professional financial risk managers. They need to tell their paymasters what could happen if the brown stuff really hit the fan, not what the average or median projections are. Otherwise, they leave themselves wide open to a very nasty surprise indeed. So while the IFOA chart shows us that 2.7 degrees is indeed the most statistically probable outcome of current policy, it also shows us plenty of lines that surpass that mark. And they tell us this: focusing on the most likely outcomes under climate change lulls us into a false sense of security, since there is still an uncomfortably high probability of an equilibrium climate sensitivity, or ECS, of 5 degrees C or higher.
All that we're trying to say is that climate change is probably going to be, there's a strong probability, 18% chance, 1 in 5 chance that climate change will go out of control. It's too late. David Suzuki says the fight against climate change is lost. We have failed to shift the narrative, and we are still caught up in the same legal, economic, and political systems. For me, what we've got to do now is hunker down. Shut the fuck up, you dumbass fucking doomer bitch. Fucking eat my dick, you fucking loser. Shut the fuck up, you fucking loser. Anytime someone's a doomer, it's pathetic as fuck. And I actually find it contemptible, not pathetic. Pathetic's the wrong word. I do not find it pathetic. I find it contemptible. You're a fucking loser. This is what happened a week ago. China breaks more records with surge in solar and wind power. Between January and May, China added 198 gigawatts of solar and 46 gigawatts of wind, enough to generate as much electricity as Indonesia or Turkey. It's 5 fucking months. Shut the fuck up, you doomer ass bitch. In China's installations of wind and solar in May are enough to generate as much electricity as Poland. Poland, by the way, relies on coal. Carbon intensity map, current generation, EU. Here we go. Boom. God, I love the fact that I know so much shit. Look at the carbon intensity of Poland's electrical grid. 845 grams of carbon per kilowatt hour. Jesus Christ. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? It's worse than, it's almost twice as bad as China. China relies on coal still quite a bit. China is now 28% low carbon. The only reason why China isn't way better than us is because they don't have any natural gas in China. As you can see, gas is only a tiny fraction of their electrical generation. So what they're doing is they are erasing. So you see the thick, like the dark bar. Okay, I need to zoom in. How can I zoom in? See if I can zoom in. There we go. You see how there's like a dark bar and then there's a extending light bar? It's night over there right now, chat. So there's no solar being generated. So right now, China isn't using 76% of their installed capacity of coal and only 24% of their capacity of gas. And you're using currently 125% installed capacity of their biomass. Interesting. So what China is doing is they are building 150 nuclear power plants, and they are building nonstop hydro, solar, and wind to get rid of and cram down coal. They want to get to complete carbon neutrality of the entire country by 2060. They're the only country, and they're 5 years ahead of their plans. Look at Poland. This year, they installed, in the last 5 months, they've installed enough solar and wind to cover all of Poland's coal. Oh my God, dude. Meanwhile, 97% of France's energy is low carbon. Let's see. I want Norway as a whole. Why is Norway all divided up into these great sections? So fucked up. As you can see, chat, Norway is between 99 and 97 renewable. Austria is 91% low carbon, 89% renewable. Switzerland is 99%. Spain is 88%. Good old US of A. This is unbelievable to me. This is unbelievable to me. Florida is such a shithole. Like, the fact that Nevada is only 56% renewable is crazy. They get 340 days of sunlight per year. Anyway, let's keep making fun of doomers because they're pathetic fucking losers. I'm sorry, contemptible losers. China installed 93 gigawatts of solar capacity last month, almost 100 solar panels every second. According to the analysis by Lori Miley-Verta, a senior fellow at the Asia Society Policy Institute, wind power installations reached 26 gigawatts, the equivalent of 5,300 turbines, in 1 month. We knew China's rush to install solar and wind was going to be wild, but wow! China's installed solar photovoltaic capacity has now surpassed 1,000 gigawatts for the first time, equivalent to half of the world's total installed solar capacity. Climate negotiations between the two superpowers have been fraught since Donald Trump entered the White House in January. I mean, that's not even true. It was fraught under Obama and Biden. Biden actually put 100% tariffs on Chinese solar panels, making solar power completely unaffordable in this country. The US president said at the time, the United States will not sabotage its own industries while China pollutes with impunity. China now accounts for 2/3 of the global market share across every major category of clean energy technology. 82% of solar panels, 65% of wind turbines, 75% of lithium-ion batteries, and 70% of electric vehicles. Xi Jinping, China's leader, is increasingly connecting China's climate ambitions with the growth of the clean energy technology sector, which he sees as vital to boosting China's flagging economy. You know what's so funny? This is what Barack Obama ran on. Barack Obama ran on green jobs, but Xi Jinping actually did it. But the hyper-competitiveness of China's economy is also putting pressure on clean energy firms, with prices of solar panels barely covering the cost of production. Yes, that's good. That means the prices are low, so more people can have electricity that's clean. You fucking, oh my God, the capitalists are making too much profit. They're not making enough profit. It's low prices. There's too much competition. Oh, the capitalists are not exploiting us so much. China is currently building 2/3 of the world's wind and solar projects, and they completed them. Obama's green jobs have been slow to sprout. Barack Obama is probably one of the worst presidents we ever had, but you're not ready to hear that yet. China's per capita carbon footprint is half that of the US. Well, they have 5 times as many people, so that means they're bad. Speaking of some China glazing.
So this morning,
did you guys see their new train station they're opening in Chongqing? I don't know how to say Chinese names, chat. This is the new train station they're about to open. It froze for a second. Let me play it back.
For the typical American, there is a lot of confusion about what life is truly like in China. When I tell them how modern the cities are, people are shocked. When I tell them about how low the prices are, people are shocked. Less than $4 US for a Michelin recommended meal. The quality of my lifestyle in China is
That'll be 400
much
in the
better
US,
than the
or
quality
200.
of life I had living in the US. My name is Elise Lightyear. I'm 35 years old, and I moved to China in 2019. I grew up in the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. After I graduated college, I moved to New York City and lived there for 10 years. I was working in reality TV production. I was tired of working 70 hours a week for 10 years. Being in my 20s, I felt like a 50-year-old woman. I was exhausted. I was living check to check, which sucked. One day I just woke up and it just clicked that this is not the life that I want for myself. I came up with this idea that I wanted to leave New York.
Let's be honest for a second. Let's be honest. Let's strip aside the propaganda. Let's strip aside the arguments and let's not do the woke gesturing towards bullshit. Let's talk about things as they are. Chinese society is superior to us when it comes to education, healthcare, infrastructure, technological investment, social order, crime, safety. This is a fucking fact. You as a single woman can go anywhere at night alone. Nobody will mug you. No one will steal from you. The cops aren't going to hassle you. This is just objective facts. It's nothing to do with what you think about criticizing the government. This is just as a person, as a law-abiding citizen, you will have a better life in China.
I moved to Beijing in 2019 and lived and taught there for 4 years. Then in 2023, I moved to Chengdu and have been in Chengdu ever since.
They do not have drug addiction like we do in China. They don't have people racked with opioids dying on the street. They just don't.
He's gonna let the duck be free. Good luck, Mr. Duck.
95% of Chinese people own their own home. And you'll see why that is in a second.
It's difficult to say goodbye to my family and friends because I didn't know when I would see them again. I didn't know how we would be able to communicate. And I was scared. I was scared of this 15-hour flight that I had to take. I was scared about what food I was gonna eat. I was scared about this new career, about being a teacher. I was scared about making friends. But I was ready and I was excited. And I think my excitement trumped my anxiety and my scared feelings. Chengdu is maybe a place you've never heard of, but it is actually one of the biggest cities. Chengdu has a population of over 20 million people, including myself. Currently, I'm a university teacher and I work a total of 18 hours a week, 4 days a week, and I teach freshman first-year university students who already speak English, and I teach them essay writing. I take the subway every single day to work. It's really easy to navigate. All of the signs are in English and Chinese. All of the announcements are in English and Chinese, so it's foolproof.
Honestly, that would suck because I would want to learn Chinese. I think like to learn Chinese, you'd have to like really force yourself. It's too easy to like just rely on the English and then use English language like entertainment when you got home. I feel like you would be almost better off just forcing yourself to learn Chinese.
This round trip subway trip cost me 2 yuan, which is 28 US cents. My current yearly salary in China is 30,000 US dollars. 30,000 US dollars a year is poverty in America. But in China, I'm living large. I am upper middle class. For my 3-bedroom apartment with a balcony located downtown Chengdu.
She doesn't even need a
just
key.
5-minute
They have facial, so like she just walks up to the door and unlocks it with her face. She can't even lose her key.
walk from the subway. My rent is $556 per month, but my job...
This is in Shanghai or Beijing? Which was it? I forgot. Beijing. $556 a month for Beijing or Chengdu. Oh, I thought she said she was in Beijing. Am I wrong? She was. Oh, okay. She moved. This is still, is Chengdu a tier 1 or tier 2? Is Chengdu tier 1 or tier 2? Yeah, I thought so. So this is basically...
But my job pays half of that as a benefit, which means I only pay $278 a month for my apartment. Welcome to my apartment here in Chengdu, China. None of this furniture in the apartment actually belongs to me. It belongs to my landlord. You didn't have to buy any furniture?
This
is my living room.
$278 for a 3-bedroom apartment in Chengdu. That's furnished? Population 20 million. It's bigger than New York. It's 3 times New York. I mean, it's 2.5 times New York. Similar apartment in New York would be like $5 grand minimum. Manhattan, $8 grand.
I love my living room. It's super cozy. I have this huge sectional couch that I just come to lay on all of the time. Bought myself a projector. I've got Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, all of the channels. This is my balcony that rarely gets used because it's either raining, super humid, or 97 degrees.
The weather, though, the weather sucks.
This is my bathroom. It's small, but it's effective. This is my wardrobe room. This is the 3rd bedroom, but there's no bed. So I've turned it into my wardrobe closet, get ready.
Why aren't you living there? Because I'm American and I want Americans to have a better life. I, as an American, look at other systems and say, hey, they're doing something right. What can we copy and make it here? It's just like when you were in school. Instead of doing your homework, you would just copy somebody else's answers. Remember that? That's why you're a conservative, because you never read any of the books. So just like you used to cheat on tests in high school, I want to look at other countries and say, hey, they're doing this thing and it's working really well. What can we copy and bring it here? I don't have to reinvent the wheel. If somebody else is doing the right thing, we should just do that thing instead of going, if you think it's better, leave. Why don't you try defending the way things are in America? Why are you so scared to flex your intellectual muscles for a change? Are you scared you might start agreeing with me if you started thinking? You fucking bitch.
Ready space. My 2nd bedroom. I didn't paint it. It came like this. And this is the master bedroom. This is it.
I really like that corner window. That's cool. It has like a little shelf for plants and stuff. That's cool.
Let me show you the kitchen.
If it was that simple, you'd still be in politics. I am doing what I believe is the best way to change politics by copying the most successful left-wing party in the world, which is AMLO. AMLO in Mexico, or AMLO's party, Morena, in Mexico, started by doing political streams. And it organized around large left-wing politicians that were pushing the left-wing horizon. I'm literally copying a playbook that has already worked. In Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum has an 85% approval rating. I am just doing what they did, but bringing it here to America. Again, because I'm smart enough to look around the world, I get to find examples that work and then bring them here.
So here it is. It's pretty small, but I'm just one person and it works perfect for me. This is where I do my laundry. This is my washer. My apartment came with this really cool built-in feature where I can hang my clothes on this hanging line that, again, is perfect for shorties like me.
You've been there since 2019. Pick up your learning. Pick up your learning.
可以尝一下。
好的。甜，
很甜的。So other benefits that come with being an international teacher at my school is I have free health care insurance. My job gives me, I think it's like $15 a month for subway fare. In addition, every year my job gives me a flight allowance, and that comes to $1,200 US. Each month, I think I spend approximately $75 on groceries. I have 4 bags of groceries, mostly produce, and a bottle of sesame oil. Total $9.04. It's really easy to make friends with local people. I have a lot of local friends that I cherish and have taught me so much about their culture.
I'm so cynical that I thought that CNBC would like try to do a but the Chinese people are racist angle. I thought they were going to try that. Instead, they're just reporting like her truth. Oh my God, I'm so cynical. I can't believe they actually did this. It's super easy to make friends.
Sure, and I also have a lot of expat friends. Okay. Aside from being a university teacher, I'm also a YouTuber, content creator, and with both of those salaries combined, the maximum amount I am able to save is up to $1,000 every month. So when it comes to eating out, it really depends on
Michelin star restaurant, 2025, $4.
Where I'm going. If I'm going to Cheesecake Factory, then I'm spending US Cheesecake Factory money, $60 for a meal. But if I'm eating local and going to my neighborhood noodle spot, I'm spending $2 on a bowl of noodles. In a month, I'm spending about $150 eating out. I feel completely safe as a woman of color. I just feel very at ease in this country. Overall crime in this country is quite low. Some of the challenges I face in China is just simply being different. China is a homogenous country, so I stick out like a sore thumb. I cannot go a day being outside without someone pointing at me and saying in Chinese, look, there's a black person, look, there's a foreigner. Another challenge.
I feel like this is actually true of everywhere in Asia. Like when I lived in Japan, it was the same thing. I got it. My mom got it. You know, when I was a kid and I lived in Japan, I got this same shit. So this is the exact, I mean, maybe Japan's different now, but I was a gaijin or whatever the fuck it's called. I can't remember. But so I think this is more like an Asia thing. I don't think they said they were saying anything mean. They were just like surprised to see a black woman, which, you know, that's cringe, but it's not the same thing as racism.
Challenges is the homesickness, is missing not only your family and friends, but missing the understanding of just how to do things. That was the hardest part, is that learning curve of trying to figure out how China works. Okay, tea house. With all the money I've saved.
By the way, look how beautiful the area she's just walking around in and how peaceful it is. And you don't hear cars. You know what I mean? It's just so much nicer. I'm sorry. Vio has brought me a hand pie. A nice hand pie. Thanks, Vio. Look, hand pie. Thanks, Vio. Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if I need a steak knife, but thank you. In case you need to cut someone.
In China, I plan on buying a house Not in the US, because can't afford that. I haven't saved enough money to buy a house in the US, but I have saved enough money to pay off a lot of my student loans. And I think I've saved enough money to buy a little casita on the beach in Mexico.
She's still paying her student loans in America?
Fingers crossed, that is the plan. I've learned a lot about myself.
I think that the one downside in China is, and something that I criticize, and I think is a major mistake, is because a lot of China's history is struggling to provide for all the Chinese citizens that they have. They've always been more restrictive on immigration, and it's hard to immigrate to China. It's very hard to immigrate to China unless you're like married to a Chinese citizen. It's very, very hard to move there. So that is a big L. Like as a permanent resident.
Living in China, I think my self-confidence has improved through the roof. So you know that saying about New York, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Well, throw that away and apply it to China.
They recently made it easier to get a 10-year visa. Yeah. Xi has been changing some of these policies. Isn't it just so fucking crazy? Like people, you show that to people and they get mad. They get mad at you. They don't. This is how you know America's in trouble. Is instead of people looking at that and going like, oh my God, we actually can have a better world. They start screaming about how you should leave. If you think China's so good, why don't you leave? All I did was watch a factual video. Okay, there's a reason that I like Xi. And the reason why I like Xi is he is the world's foremost mansplainer. And that I admire. If you want the world's foremost mansplainer, is Xi. Now, I've seen a lot of Xi coverage over the years. And the one thing he likes to do is he'll either give people advice or he will like tell you some sort of historical anecdote about their profession or their town. Okay, so that's the Xi method, is either let me give you some advice, it's maxing. So he's coming across women who are laundry women in a rural China.
你们习惯于这样洗衣服是吧？这是像在江边上这样的啊。对。还有那棒槌吧？有棒槌。这就是一直就用这样的棒槌。这个棒槌呢，就是打这个衣服。然后现在是用洗衣粉还是用？用无磷洗衣粉。无磷洗衣粉。无磷洗衣粉。
总书记，我说俩能不能试一下？那个位置蛮矮。我说没事，你俩就站着打，就站着全部哈，好多人都跟我们鼓掌啊！那是我那一辈子难忘的一天。
我们每家每户都有洗衣机啊，也有自来水，但是他们就喜欢原来在江边推棒头的习惯。大家在一起洗衣服时，
He said that everybody in our village has a washing machine and running water, but old villagers still like the old way. That's what he said.
难忘的一天。
我们每家每户都有洗衣机啊，也有自来水，但是他们就喜欢原来在江边推棒头的习惯。洗衣服时还有一个爱好就是一起聊聊天。
洗过衣服的污水是通过那个下水管道流到下面一个污水处理厂。
Wastewater goes to a treatment plant.
在污水处理厂经过净化以后，还可以灌溉。
长江来讲呢，第一位的是要。
She is saying the most important part is protecting the Yangtze River.
是我们这个母亲。 It's
the mother river of the Chinese nation.
人不负青山，
If we do not fail nature, nature shall never fail us. It's crazy how we're literally going in the opposite direction. Yes, because America is, and China just had a flood as well.
A small Chinese county gets hit by 2 biblical floods in days, with rain equal to 46 West Lakes pouring down. But Chinese response constituted a textbook demonstration of societal cohesion, unmatched by any NATO or ASEAN disaster response protocol. Meet the heroes with no capes. And Uyghur drove 4,000 kilometers with 11 cows he bought himself. A Sichuan man hauled 1,700 lubies of watermelons across mountains. Disabled philanthropist Hule donated 19 tons of supplies until his bank account hit 5 cents. But the real magic, when villagers whose homes survived less rushed to help those who
I'm sorry, chat. I can never watch TikToks like this. I can never watch TikTok like this. I'm just not a slop enjoyer. Even though this is cute, I'm just not a slop enjoyer.
Those who lost everything. 8-year-old grannies donating their last potatoes, entire villages grabbing knives to cook for rescue teams, farmers threshing rice overnight so kitchens wouldn't run out. Pack the rice tighter. Our frontline fighters need full stomachs. This became their battle cry. This isn't just disaster response. It's 5,000 years of civilization screaming, "We stand together!" Remember, Sichuan earthquake. Thousands raced into crumbling buildings. Chongqing wildfires.
I think one of the things that puts America in trouble is a civilization's self-confidence is also important, right? Like just the idea of you wanting to help members of your community, feeling like you have a stake in your community and your neighbors is a sign of a society that's improving. The problem with America is a lot of Americans don't believe that they have a stake in each other. Why should I have to pay for your child to get an education? Or why should I have to pay for your health care? That's how Americans think. And so that means we're hollowing out that which would make us stronger. All right. Let's go talk about other political shit.
I really don't think this would be politically palatable, but
oh my God, chat. The best thing ever. Jeremy Corbyn is starting a new left-wing party in the UK. And Labour is fucking scrambling.
Then again, this government likes doing quite painful things for minimal gain, so who's to say?
I am joined now by the data editor for the Times and Sunday Times, Tom Calver. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
We know from the weekend and reporting in the Sunday Times that the government is pretty much saying it's going to have to raise taxes to pay for the welfare U-turn brought about by a rebellion of Labour MPs last week. Some within Labour would like those tax rises to fall on the wealthy. Here's the former Labour leader, Lord Kinnock, speaking yesterday to Sky News.
An imposition of 2% on asset values above 10 million, say, which is a very big fortune, the government would be in a position to collect 10 or 11 billion a year. Now, that's not going to pay all the bills. This is a country which is very substantially fed up with the fact that whatever happens in the world, whatever happens in the UK, the same interests come out on top.
Well, Tom, hold your thoughts. I'll come back to you in a moment. Let's speak now about a wealth tax with Christian Niemitz, editorial director at the Institute for Economic Affairs. Christian, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us. So, look, could a tax on assets of more than £10 billion raise £11 billion, as Neil Kinnock suggests?
I doubt that very much. I would like to see his calculation. I'm assuming that this is on a static basis, so he assumes that nobody is going to respond to this. There's not going to be any behavioral responses. But we know, of course, from the history of wealth taxes that people do respond to them. So this
they put a wealth tax in Norway. It actually collected more than they thought.
Can lead to either capital flight or simply lower savings rate, so lower rates of wealth formation, and then you have less to tax to begin with. Wealth taxes are not a new idea. This always has to be emphasized here. They were fairly common for most of the 20th century. Most countries have abandoned them because they were a disappointment. They don't raise much money. They have a huge administrative burden because measuring wealth is actually not very straightforward. It's not like income where you have, say, a number in your employment contract, and that's just the amount of money that you're going to be taxed on. You need a wealth database where you have to constantly reassess people's wealth, and that can change. That changes all the time, from minute to minute, basically, depending on what kind of assets you have. And they are just an administrative nightmare, and that's one reason why most countries have abandoned them over time.
One would think if it's a tax on people with assets of more than £10 million, and that's really the super, super rich we're talking about, it can't be a lot of people. I mean, presumably it's not a lot of people.
I don't know the numbers right now, but no, there can't be a lot of those. So yeah. If you set it at such a high level, it's clearly a symbolic measure.
In 2022, Norway increased their wealth tax to 1.1%. In response, some high-profile billionaires moved out of the country. According to a viral claim, this resulted in a net loss of revenue. Is this true? No. Over the next 2 years, wealth tax revenue soared to all-time highs. This paper finds that there was some effect from a similar wealth tax in Sweden. It was statistically quite small, and thus well below the peak of the Laffer curve. So there's been an overwhelming attempt to try to spread the idea that wealth taxes don't work. But in the country that has the highest human development index in the world, Norway, they have a wealth tax. And by increasing it, they increase the revenue. Not very complicated. They're just lying. Surprise, surprise.
They just want to signal, look, we're coming after the super rich, and this is clearly a panic response to Corbyn and Sultana setting up their new socialist party. And this is a pure signaling to the left wing of the party. Look.
Why do you guys want me to cover this? This is fucking meaningless. Who gives a fuck? One guy shot somebody and then got shot. Who gives a fuck? This story is like not even a story. There's nothing to say. Boring. There's no analysis to make.
We're doing something rather than a revenue-raising measure.
Is there some logic in a wealth tax kind of sort of lower down the scale for, I mean, you know, targeting people with assets of like a couple of million, a few million? Because as you said, you know, we don't tax wealth as much as we tax income. And presumably not everyone is going to flee the country, you know, if you aim it lower. Is there some logic in doing that?
Well, yes, but then, so the trade-off here is if you lower it, if you set it at a level that most people wouldn't consider super rich, then yes, you can raise more revenue through a wealth tax, but then all the negative side effects, the capital flight and reduced savings, that is also going to have a bigger effect. So the economic damage that you cause and the administrative burden is also going to be bigger. So it's either a symbolic measure. In that case, it doesn't do much harm, but it doesn't do much good either, because you're setting it at a rate where there's basically maybe just 3 people in the country who this applies to. Or if this is supposed to be a meaningful tax that a sizable number of people actually pay, then you're also going to have all the economic side effects. I'd say if they are really concerned about wealth inequality, there's a much simpler way of achieving greater wealth inequality, and that would simply be to build more houses. That would be the way to spread property wealth, because to the extent that Britain has seen an increase in wealth inequality, almost all of that is really property wealth.
Right. Okay. What about a one-off tax? Because I mean, we've seen one-off taxes on the banks, privatized utilities, oil and gas companies, and stuff. What about a one-off tax on the super rich?
Well, it's not going to be credible that it really is one-off. So if you can do that, if you could somehow give a cast iron guarantee that this is only going to be done once.
This is just right-wingers like to create the idea of capital flight, because if you could actually demonstrate that we could collect more taxes and do more shit, then people will want more services from their government and they would politically support it. So the only way to get people to be fearful of government services being funded by taxes is to imply that, well, if you tax the rich, they're going to run abroad. They're rich because they're exploiting British people. The rich people depend upon the British. So if they want to leave, you simply charge an exit tax. You put an exit tax of 50%. You want to move your you want to move your citizenship? You want to avoid taxes? We'll take half your, we will expropriate your wealth on the way out. So you either pay 2%, a modest tax, or we take half of it or all of it. This is, by the way, this is what China does as well. China says, hey, you could grow. If you want to make money in China, fine. But if you try to take that money out of here, we're going to charge you extremely high taxes. It's called capital controls. And yet the Chinese economy is the fastest growing economy in history. And that's part of the reason why. Because people make money in China, they're forced to keep it in China and reinvest in China. And it leads to a spiraling of investment, which increases productivity, which increases wealth. They try to create these fear cycle. Like, do you think rich people somehow make money? They make money by exploiting the labor of others. That is how it works. I pay you to do a job where you generate $1 million in revenue, and I pay you $100,000, and I am the owner, so I get the $900,000 remainder, and then I hire another person at $100,000 to make another $900,000, and I rapidly become rich. It's called exploitation. So if you say like, I think the owner should pay slightly more in taxes, what are they going to do? Stop exploiting people? They're going to stop making money off the labor of others? They're going to say, I'm only making $150,000 in profit instead of $900,000. I quit. I only want $850,000 if I don't have to pay taxes on it. It's like, well, no, you want the more money. You want more money. Now, is there some point where people will stop working? Yes, but it's certainly not 2%. You can't just tax people 100% because then they have no incentive to work.
in history and it will never be repeated, then yes, by definition, there's not going to be a behavioral response because people just know, okay, this will never happen again. So there's no point in changing my behavior now. But it's just that well, you can't credibly signal that in reality. They're always going to say, oh yes, this is a one-off, don't worry about it. And then 2 years later, they will say, okay, we still have a budget deficit. Maybe rather than a one-off, maybe it's maybe we'll do it twice.
Yeah. Well,
or 3 times.
Maybe we'll do it every 5 years, every 10 years. Look, I mean, I understand the very good point about building more houses would help wealth inequality. But what about revenue-raising options? If the government needs more money, the government doesn't have enough money, the state doesn't have enough money, cutting, the various cuts that Rachel Reeves want to do haven't worked. She's also ruled out tax rises, not that helpfully. What options are available to this government?
Well, even for that, simply allowing more house building would help because that would generate more economic activity and that...
By the way, I mean, like, this kind of, like, right-wing analysis is so fucking tired. You definitely should allow more housing and density, and you should remove local control. I'm in favor of all that kind of shit. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not. I don't think that somebody, just because they own a home, should then be able to dictate what you do on your property. Within some bounds of reason, right? Like no nuisance noise and pollution and things like that, of course. As far as like, oh, I bought a house here, so I get to determine that what everybody does with their property within a mile of me, that's an insane fucking position. I'm reading the FDR biography, and the way they attack Social Security is that it wouldn't be there when you retire. Conservatives have no new or original arguments ever. Yes, and unfortunately, our generation has bought the bullshit. Our generation bought the idea that Social Security is not going to be there for them, so you guys are not fighting for it. Meanwhile, it's totally fine. And once the boomers died, it's going to be overfunded again. Like, that's the thing that's really funny. Even if we do nothing for Social Security, and boomers will have to take a haircut for a while, where they'll get like 80% of their promised benefits. And then when they all die, it'll be flush with cash again. Even under the worst case scenario of doing nothing, Social Security doesn't end. It's just about getting over the boomer bump. 30 years from now, when all the boomers are gone, Social Security will be flush with cash.
Most of that is going to be taxed. So it has the positive side effect of also raising more tax revenue, even if that should not be the main motivation. But that would be a positive side effect. And to the extent that the current government has already done a little bit to allow extra house building, that already has a small positive effect on...
Okay, this guy's boring as fuck. I'm trying to find this new party. Corbyn's new left-wing party should be called the Farage Assistance Group. This is the argument that they're going to try to make. How dare you try to make your own political party? We're entitled to your votes.
Yeah. Look, a year ago,
Labour... They kicked him out of the party, and now they're mad he's making his own party. This is the mindset of a conservative Democrat.
Celebrated this really stonking victory, had a massive majority. This week, it feels like a mess. What's gone wrong?
It's not a mess, but what's gone wrong is really the lack of a narrative, a story of the objectives of the government and why they're working towards it and how they're working towards it. Now, they are working towards it with a series of really commendable and absolutely essential policies. They are barely noticed because they're obscured by all the song and dance and noise, drums banging and cymbals clashing of the winter fuel payment being massively reduced and then restored, the welfare program, the two-child benefit cap, and the cuts in development aid, all those negative things that really are heartily disliked across the labour movement and more widely, much more widely. And that means that apart from the distaste for undertaking those policies, the cloud hangs over the accomplishments of the government, which are substantial and will become greater, and people are not...
We've found ourselves, chat, the last Labour supporter. They have 13% approval.
Getting the message. So they've got to change in terms of focusing on accomplishment and communicating the accomplishment.
Well, you've mentioned a number of things there, but the central point you're making, there isn't a clear message from government. Now, I'm old enough to remember that under your leadership of the Labour Party, you know, I can probably sum it up pretty quickly now. First thing, we're not mad anymore.
Right.
And number two, we're going to get rid of extremists. And number three, we are the party of social justice against the Thatcherite Tories who are going to do all sorts...
Social justice and economic efficiency.
There you go.
That's the phrase that I
there you
coined.
go. Why haven't we got a clearer message from this Labour administration?
Partly because of the circumstances in which they had to operate, necessarily, in order to get elected. They put an emphasis on caution and discipline, which was crucial in the wake of the chaos that had gone before under Corbyn. And they really did restore credibility and respect for the Labour Party, but it did mean that they depressed expectations and limited themselves by saying they were going to rigidly stick to fiscal rules and that they weren't going to substantially or indeed increase, quote, quote, taxes on working people at all. Now, that means that unless you are looking...
This Labour government just declared a Palestinian protest group to be a terrorist group where you will get 14 years in prison if you say you support them because they put spray paint on a plane. The first time a protest group has been declared a terrorist group in British history.
For other original sources of revenue in order to invest in public services and long-term investment, then you are really jammed in a bit of a corner.
I get the point about discipline, but they came in, they had this huge majority. They've had essentially no challenge. The opposition is divided, and they would have room to, if you like, be a little bit more flexible. Do you think that they should think again about what people say is boxing themselves in with the fiscal rules?
I think if you were sitting at the cabinet table and offered the words you've just used, you would find a ready hearing. Because people are willing, and have been for some time, naturally, because they're pragmatic politicians, as well as people with convictions and strong values. They are listening to the ideas of adjustment and alternative. There's no question at all about that.
So if you were, but far more likely scenario, you were sitting at the cabinet table, you would say, look, everybody, I know that discipline matters, but is it time to think again about chaining ourselves to this mantra?
Well, I said a couple of years ago, in actually defending the caution of the opposition, led brilliantly, in my view, by Keir Starmer. And it was that the essential disciplined caution of opposition won't be allowed to become stiffness or stagnation in government. Now, unfortunately, the appearance has been given, it's not actually the accurate picture, but the appearance has been given that they have bogged down by their own imposed limitations. There are ways around that, ways out of it, pathways that I think people are willing to explore and actually would commend themselves to the great majority of the general public. They include, for instance, asset taxes in a period in which, for the last 20-odd years, in the United Kingdom, like quite a lot of other Western economies, earned incomes have stagnated in real terms, while asset values have zoomed. They've just gone through the roof.
Houses,
and
stocks and shares, all of that.
Barely touched, absolutely. And they've been barely touched. Now, you wouldn't have to touch assets of under 6 or 7 million, so people's houses would be secure, obviously. But even...
I want to let you know, chat, that the only reason why Labour won, and this is too boring, like, centrists are actually so fucking boring. Like, there's really nothing more to say. There is really nothing more to say. They are completely worthless. They make no points. The reason why Labour won a majority is because a new party split the Conservative vote pretty much 50-50. And so the Labour was able to win a whole bunch of seats with 30% of the vote, 35% of the vote. That if the Conservative movement consolidates around one candidate, Labour will lose all of their seats. And if you want an idea of how centrism is judged as a success or failure, they have a 17% approval rating. So they won one of the largest majorities in British history. And a year later, after implementing their policies, they're the most unpopular Labour has ever been. Corbyn got way more votes when he ran, but that's because Reform stood down. Reform united with the Tories because they had one of their own in Boris Johnson. That's the only reason why. Is on the left had the vote split. They had centrist Labour MPs stabbing Corbyn in the back. You had the Zionist lobby stabbing Corbyn in the back. And you had the entire media working to attack Corbyn. And he still got millions of more votes. Is Donald Trump about to do Liberation Day 2? Since announcing the formation of a new left party just 3 days ago, over 72,000 people have signed up to get involved. Let's make it 100,000. P.S. The ticker at the bottom of the page is broken. We're fixing it. Hold on. Hell yeah, man. There is massive outrage at 15 years of austerity. And what has 15 years of austerity done for the British government? Like, look at this shit. Why doesn't Google make charts anymore? Google used to make charts. What the fuck? Oh my. They've had literally no growth. Okay, that is the worst chart I've ever seen. Holy shit. Okay. Jesus Christ. Thank you. I found the chart. We can actually look at since 2008, their economy has been flat. 2 lost decades. They did austerity under Gordon Brown. They did more austerity under David Cameron. And now they're doing more austerity under Keir Starmer. And their economy is fucking flat. In fact, it's negative. 20 years of no GDP growth. This is what austerity does for you. This is what moderation and centrism does for you. Thatcher was first with austerity. Yeah, that was a little bit of a different time because they were coming off of a energy crunch and stagflation of the 70s. So, and there was still population growth and positive things like that. Like, centrism has been absolutely fatal for the UK. And yet they're doing it again? And this is what the Democratic Party is like.
And why is it that in the Democratic Party, the 3 most compelling figures, the mayoral candidate, Bernie Sanders, and AOC, the 3 most compelling figures since the election have been far left of, let's say, the mainstream of a lot of Americans? Why can't moderate Democrats, why can't conservative moderate Democrats like you make that same compelling message?
Yeah, so let me...
And why is it that in the Democratic...
And when he says far to the left, he's not really talking about policy. Let's be specific. The rent freeze has like 80% support. Free buses is at worst a majority or plurality support. Free childcare, majority support. So what is he talking about? Specifically, what policy is the majority of Americans supposedly against or to the right of? But also the mayoral candidate, he didn't even say his name. Pathetic. Pathetic. Using terms like left and right implies equal merit. Well, that's their entire job as political entertainers. They're not there to actually argue for anything or believe in anything. They exist there to do what? Misinform, manipulate. I was talking to my lived up aunt this weekend, and she's very close to being radicalized, losing all faith in Dems. She lives in Florida and said it's getting bad. We need ready for a new later. She says she likes what she's seeing from Mamdani. Now is the time. Yes, of course. Now is the time. MSNBC is so fucking cowardly, dude. And by the way, this is how you can tell the vibes are shifting, chat. Look at how the vibes are shifting.
22 past the hour. As I mentioned earlier, the U.S. deported 8 men to South Sudan on Friday after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Trump administration's effort to deport migrants to third countries. The men from 6 different nations were held for weeks at an American military base before a federal judge denied a request from their lawyers to stop their relocation over fears of torture. U.S. administration officials said all 8 men had been convicted of serious crimes in the U.S. prior to their deportation. That comes, as Axios notes this morning, quote, the MAGA movement is reveling in the creativity, severity, and accelerating force of President Trump's historic immigration crackdown, and that once fringe tactics, an alligator-moated detention camp, deportations to war zones, denaturalization of immigrant citizens are now being proudly embraced at the highest levels of the U.S. government. The report continues, and it's an extraordinary shift from Trump's first term, when nationwide backlash and the appearance of cruelty forced the administration to abandon its family separation policy for unauthorized immigrants. And now the newly signed spending law will provide the administration an influx of billions of dollars in new funding for immigration enforcement. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan is once again speaking out about President Donald Trump's immigration policies. During an episode of his podcast last week, Rogan criticized the president's immigration enforcement tactics that have seen nonviolent immigrants swept up in ICE raids.
We were told there would be well, there's two things that are insane. One is the targeting of migrant workers, cartel members, not gang members, not drug dealers, just construction workers. Showing up in construction sites and raiding them, gardeners. Yeah. Like, really?
Rogan first criticized Trump's immigration policies earlier this year after a Venezuelan asylum seeker was deported to El Salvador despite having no gang affiliations. The co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend Primetime, Elise Jordan, is back with us. Also joining us, opinion writer at the New York Times, Mara Gay. And Mara, I'm first of all wondering, I'm trying to think of the limits that might be pushed with this new funding coming in from the bill.
Limits. I think, unfortunately, what we're seeing is that these ICE raids have now, it's going to just be turbocharged and without any kind of accountability. Congress has not shown an appetite under Republican control for any kind of oversight. And we're talking about spending dollars for ICE and ICE raids and DHS that rival some countries, the entire budget of other countries. So there's a lot of concerns about just wantonness, I would say. We already don't actually have much insight at all into what's happening on America's streets, where these raids are happening, the way they're being conducted. And I think that Americans should be asking their Congress people to take a far more active role in oversight. And you know, I think there's just an underlying tragedy here. We were told for years, you know, I'm not even 40 years old. I remember being told there's no money in America for healthcare, for public education, for new parks, all kinds of initiatives that we were told there's no money for this. But suddenly there's money to deport farm workers. There's money to sweep up, you know, people who worked with our troops in Afghanistan. There's funding to separate families. People who have really not committed crimes, but have come here to work, to be a part of this country. And I just think that the cruelty underlying this really shows that this isn't about immigration policy for this White House. This is about a policy of othering people.
So it's so funny to be a big Trump guy and then go, wait, he's doing what he said he's going to do? This is insane. But ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I have had to deal with for a very long time, which is conservatives do not believe, they simply do not believe what the Republican Party's policies actually are. So like when you talk to a Republican voter or you talk to a self-described conservative, the biggest thing you're going to have to get over is that they will not believe you when you accurately and objectively describe their policies. They are not Republicans because they pay attention to politics. They're not Republicans because they understand the policies that they're voting for. They're Republican because of an identity. This is most conservatives, at least the majority of them. Only a small percentage of people who are Republicans are actually a member of what we call the conservative movement, which means they actually know what the fuck what policies they're advocating for.
People who are not seen as American enough. And I think that is chilling And you see that through line with this Alcatraz. It's so disturbing. It's honestly hard to get my
Mara, I do think you hit the nail on the
it.
head, though, talking about the cruelty.
Yeah.
It sounds like the migrants who are being deported to South Sudan have committed some pretty unsavory crimes. That said, how is it?
A lot of my conservative friends just go with it because they don't want to be seen as liberals. Exactly. It is a identity-based thing. That's why like Soy Boy, or when that one libertarian guy came in here, what was he saying? He said something about femboys unsolicited. Remember that unsolicited comment about femboys? I'm like, have you seen? I am the least femboy guy in the fucking universe. Like, what the fuck? And he unprompted just started saying femboy. And it's just like, excuse me? Excuse me? Where'd that come from? And part of it is he's a closet, being a closet case. What comes to his mind quickly and easily is his fantasies about gay sex. And then the second thing is he doesn't want to be perceived as a feminine man himself. So his identity appeals and his own masculine insecurity, that is such a compelling argument for him. And so he wasn't saying anything about my arguments. And notice when I started talking about what libertarianism is, he ran away.
Within humanitarian law to send people to a war zone, to an active war zone. Mika, I just think it sounds insane, and I just can't believe we're doing this as a country.
Recent polling on Mamdani's policy popularity, I think this is an internal, this is like literally, oh, okay, oh, wow, a fair poll, never mind. I thought this was Cuomo's polling. Zohran Mamdani's policies are popular with Americans outside New York, even if Mamdani is not, because they don't know who the fuck he is. They don't know who the fuck he is. He has no name recognition outside of New York. Like, let's be honest, and in political spaces, they don't know who it's the same thing with AOC. It's the same way. 35% of people have never heard the name AOC, and she is the most popular or well-known House member. She's probably more well-known than Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House. And a significant portion of this country has no fucking idea who she is. So there's no fucking way Mamdani's name recognition is going to be national, like, even after his win. Did not find the candidate himself to be particularly popular or well-known. And this is the point, is he's not known. He's only known among New Yorkers and politics obsessives. 22% say they have a favorable opinion. A greater share see him unfavorably. An even greater share don't know what to think. So in other words, Democrats don't know who he is. And they've probably seen him more on Fox News. 47 favorable among Democrats. 42 don't know who he is. So literally, of every Democrat who knows who he is, he has a positive favorability, basically. But the Democratic Party as a whole, 60% unfavorable versus 32% favorable. So, and by the way, so if you see anybody saying Mamdani's not even popular and using this as an argument, they're a knowing charlatan. They're a knowing fraud. Like, they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. All right, wait. What the fuck? It zoomed in. It decided to zoom in on me. It zoomed in. It zoomed in. Zoom out further. Okay, there you go. Jesus. My camera has become sentient, chat. What the heck? It's got an aimbot. All right. Anyway, what was I saying? Many Americans are okay. So they did something valuable. They actually just polled his proposals, chat. Many Americans approve of Zohran Mamdani's proposals to lower the cost of living. Do you support raising taxes on corporations and millionaires to pay for these proposals? 90% of Democrats, 88% of Democrats, 65% of all U.S. adults, and 40% of Republicans agree. 40% of Republicans agree with raising taxes on corporations and millionaires? Implementing free childcare for every child aged 6 weeks to 5 years. 82% of Democrats, 62% of Americans, and 38% of Republicans? freezing rent for lower income tenants. 39% of Republicans and 79% of Democrats and 60% of Americans? I never want to hear that the American people are to the left or to the right of the average. Like, what the fuck? Raising the minimum wage to $30 is at 49%. And that would be raising it by 4.5 times where it is now. And permanently eliminating the fares on public buses is at 46%. So there is not one policy that he proposes. And most Americans don't take buses. So, like, most Americans drive a car. This is irrelevant for most people. In New York, it's different. Mamdani's policies still garner significant support among Republicans. And this is the thing that I would say. People who identify as Republican do not identify as Republican because of policy ideas. They do it because of social identity. So we need to figure out a way of cracking the Republican social identity. And I think the answer to that is we've got to be a little bit meaner. We have to be meaner to people for being Republican. We need to make being Republican more fucking embarrassing. And we need to stop having Democrats walking around saying, I like Republicans. No, I fucking don't. And if you're Republican, that's fucking cringe. We need people to actually feel the heat. For the longest time, the Democrats have been sucking Republican cock, and it has led to them feeling overconfident and the feeling that they are the silent majority. We need to disabuse them of that notion. Like Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders at AOC, the city's new mayoral nominee identifies as a Democratic socialist. And far fewer Americans say they would support a candidate who embraces that label, 30%, that say they would not, 43%. In other words, it's irrelevant because Republicans are 43% of... Yes, Republicans don't like people who call themselves socialists. Noon is at 11. It doesn't fucking matter. And in fact, if we had a really good candidate, the popularity for Democratic Socialists would go up, which is why Mamdani's doing it, because he's actually one of us. That is the main difference. Should they use their own weapons against them and call them pedophiles and talk about how Republicans have been busted for being pedophiles? Yes, of course. Of course you should. What you need to understand about the Republican brain is that it's a fear-based brain. All right, let's keep going. Oh, wait!
I would say
Norm Finkelstein talking about Zohran. Oh my God, I gotta get Norm on here. Does anybody know Norm? I gotta bring him on my stream. I would love to talk to him about this shit. There's a few people that I want to bring on my stream. I need to like somebody who reaches out to guests. I really do need to do that. Norm Finkelstein, generational king.
That Mamdani, he represents almost in a pure form the class struggle. You know, the famous line by Karl Marx in the beginning of the Communist Manifesto. The first line is, the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles.
Chad, I was just getting some samples. For union-made shirts. Okay, are you okay? Are you all right? Are you okay, buddy? We're right here. Decided to look at the ceiling. I'm just getting some samples for some union made, and they sent me some solidarity towel. It's a solidarity towel. Get it? No, it's a tea towel, but it's a solidarity towel. Oh, I like this one. Yeah, this is the Royal Brew. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got some new shirts, chat. I'm liking the thickness on this. This actually seems pretty nice. Oh, the black. Oh, this is the navy. Okay, this is the navy. All right, so it's not the... That's a pretty dark navy. I like that. All right. So chat, progress being made on merch, upgraded my camera, keeping promises left and right. You subscribe to the channel and the promises are kept. The promises are kept. Now you just need Firefox. So I started a chat. I did a free trial of YouTube Premium just so you guys wouldn't see ads. Promises made, promises kept. You need a less boring looking wall. That's something I'm working on. Anyway, new camera, folks. My streamer keeps his promises. Your god, damn, I need a new chair. That's my next thing. I need a new chair. Is that your world's only 24K Labubu? Yes. Labubu. Why is your camera moving around like it's about? Because it tracks me now. It's AI. It's fucking AI. hidden in the corner. Don't track me. Stop tracking me. Oh, what else do we got over here? Nothing too important. I can stand up. Oh, fuck. I spilled some water, chat. I overfilled my cup. High ceiling? Yeah, it's a high ceiling. They're like, I don't know. It's super high ceiling. I mean, of course, why wouldn't I have high ceiling? But now I can stand up, chat. I could actually do, like, you know, get a treadmill and just be walking. It's actually doable with this camera. And if I get all pissy, I could just leave. The camera looked down like it was sad. Yeah. I have to wear pants now? I'm wearing shorts. Hassan said he got in contact with Finkelstein through FaZe Apex, who's Palestinian. Oh, shit. Did I lose weight? Oh, I lost weight a while ago. I lost weight a while ago. FaZe Norm. All right, let's keep going.
History of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggles. And we're seeing in the Mamdani campaign, it's clearing the air. If you remember when the Bernie Sanders challenge to the existing system emerged, it got the powers that be tried to confuse the stakes. So all of these woke people, they started to criticize Bernie for being weak on the black question, weak on racism, weak on reparations, weak on the women question. They said Bernie bros. That was how they called it. That was all men, all white men. Of course, Bernie's campaign was all about the class struggle. Every night when he came out, it was attacking the billionaire class.
I actually think the best way to checkmate those kind of rad lib fucking losers is understand that they're gonna abuse that kind of shit. So somebody like Mamdani, as a Muslim man, you're not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna support the white guy because he's not good enough. Mamdani's not good enough on immigration issues or some bullshit right like that, right? I actually think the best way to do identity politics is to never mention it. Just have someone who embodies diverse identity, but they never mention it. They never say, I'll be the first woman president, or I'll be the first Muslim anything. They embody it, and then they talk about shit they're gonna do for you. That's how you checkmate this shit. If AOC were to run for president and go, I'll be the first Latina president, that would be a fucking disaster. Let other people say that shit. Your campaign should be about what you're gonna do for people. Your campaign should be about class warfare. That is the secret. Because the rad libs are gonna try to check, like if I were to run, they'd be like, oh my God, Mike from PA is a white chauvinist, white nativist, class reductionist. Every single interview I did would be a Z-Way interview. Name 100 black people right now. And that would be easy for me. I've got many friends off the Pete train by making them class conscious. Pete Buttigieg is by far and away, I think of Pete Buttigieg as the suicide pill of humanity. If the Democratic Party unites behind Pete Buttigieg, it will be the same thing as a captured intelligence agent swallowing the cyanide capsule.
FaZe boys are Muslim, knew it all along. Guys, FaZe boys, dude, there are a lot of Muslims in FaZe, first of all. Okay, this is not even a joke because it sounds like a joke, it reads like a joke, and a lot of people will think this is a joke. But the person who initially connected me to Norm Finkelstein was literally a FaZe clan member. And not just any FaZe clan member, but like...
One of the first things that made me not like Vosh is he used the term class reductionist socialist, by the way. Yeah, that's what I was called. A lot of... Thank you guys for the emo, for this gifties. A lot of people called me class reductionist Mike. Tanky class reductionist Mike. Yeah, that was a way that most people attacked me. Now everybody's a tanky.
Like the OG FaZe clan member, FaZe Apex. FaZe Apex is literally Palestinian. Okay? A lot of people don't know this, but like he is one of the OGs. He's one of the OGs in FaZe, and he is straight up fucking Palestinian, bro. And he knows Norm Finkelstein. He was the one who connected me to Norm Finkelstein. Now, obviously that didn't work, but regardless, like just the words, just words that I never thought I would actually put together, like words that I never thought I would see in the same sequence, like FaZe, a FaZe clan trick shotter who is an OG was the person who connected me, an anti-Zionist political commentator, to the OG anti-Zionist academic Norm Finkelstein.
Caleb Z-Way interview is one of the best. I need Mike to watch it. LMAO, please play it on stream. I sent it to Vio. She watched it on her stream. We're going to get to this portion, chat. We're going to get to this portion.
Class. It was attacking Goldman Sachs. It was attacking Big Pharma. But both the Republican and the Democratic Party both tried to obscure what was going on by turning it into an identity politics struggle. So the Republicans represented the oppressed white working class.
Which reminds me, Wooish, do you want to be an artist? Wooish, do you want to be an artist?
Identity politics, you know, and affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion. And the Democrats.
This is my personal argument. Chat, tell me if this is a bad take or not. I want you to judge this take purely. I've talked about it before on stream, but this is my take. I think we need our own Southern strategy. We need the Southern strategy for wokeism. Call it the Northern strategy. And what the Northern strategy is DEI shit. Now it hurts you. People are all, you know, they've been brain rotted by the internet and Joe Rogan. So when you say woke shit, it hurts you. What we should do is instead we should talk about economics things that are about making this a more dignified society for all. But the net effect of those policies is to help working class people more than other people. And the net effect of that will be helping black people and Hispanic people more than whites. Now, it'll still help the average white person, but it'll help the average white person less than the average black person. So by arguing for universality, you're actually arguing for a form of reparations. Because black people are not given the same benefits as the rest of us. By arguing for universal benefits for all, you're actually arguing for disproportionate resources to black and brown communities. So you're talking about these economic things, and the net effect is it helps marginalized communities more than majoritarian communities. Although, and this is the great trick of being a left winger, it will help everyone. I'll give you an analogy so it makes sense. Let's say that a black person makes 70% of what a white worker on average makes. But if they both join a union together, they'll make 110% of what the average person makes. So for a black person, they're going from 70% all the way to 110%. That is a massive increase of 40%, right? The white person, they're seeing their income go from 100 to 110. So that's a huge raise for them too. So what you've done is you've raised up the white person, you've increased their standard of living and their position in society, but you've disproportionately raised black and brown people up even more, even faster. So when people see themselves advancing in their life, they don't look around and go, oh, I'm going to tear down you and you and you. They just see that as something they did for themselves. And in fact, solidarity is the best way to remove these kind of disproportionate disparities between groups. And this is a fucking economic fact. Unions close race and gender wage gap. This is what's insane. Oh, wait, this isn't what I wanted. Here it is. Unions help narrow the gender wage gap. So in other words, when you look at union versus non-union pay, the single best way to help people, narrow those gaps of gender and race is to give them a membership in a union. So anyway, my take is we should do the Northern strategy, which is we talk universality, knowing that universal programs will help marginalized communities more than the majority, but it will still raise the average person's life and therefore helps everyone.
Try to turn it into also an identity politics campaign. We represent Black people, Mexican, Hispanic people, sexual minorities. So each of them pretended they wanted to obscure the real issue. The real issue was a class struggle. And Bernie was very emphatic about that. Now with Mamdani, that sort of identity politics is not going to stick with him. You can't say a fellow named Mamdani is weak on race questions, ethnic questions, religious questions. It's not going to work. So it's a straight out class struggle. His campaign was just like Bernie's. Bernie's was about affordability. And that's Zohran Mamdani's about affordability. But in this case, you can't use any of the woke weapons against him because his name is Zohran Mamdani. He's clearly not a old white male, you know. So it's a clear-cut class struggle. They're very scared of it because remember, the other side has the money, they have the power.
And by the way, this is something that I want you to understand something, chat. Socialists have always been liberatory on all these areas. Socialists were on the cutting edge of the civil rights struggle. Socialists were on the cutting edge of liberation for queer people and people of color and recognition of indigenous rights. It's always been the case that it was socialists who led the way. So the idea of making arguments based on class struggle is therefore going to hurt any of these movements is a bullshit. Liberals are throwing all sorts of groups under the bus in the name of electability right now because they don't believe in solidarity. They believe in opportunism.
They have the organization, but one thing they don't have the numbers. And in a democracy, a formal democracy, one person, one vote, that's a problem. They don't have the numbers. The numbers aren't even close. And now the primary, they brought to bear their money. Bloomberg, just Bloomberg, Michael Bloomberg, a former mayor of New York, a Jewish supremacist billionaire, he gave Cuomo $8.3 million. And as I said, your mailboxes were stuffed with, we have to stop Mamdani. We have to stop Mamdani. Anti-Semitism. They were literally jam-packed, the mailboxes. Didn't work. The numbers are coming back to haunt them. It's not what the Occupy movement said. It's not 99%. Remember the slogan of the Occupy movement, we are the 99%. It's closer to 80%. 80%'s a lot. 80% are the losers in this system. 80%
I actually think 80% is how it used to be. It's actually 90% now. The people that are falling off right now are the people that are in the 80 to 90 percentile. And the people in the 90 to 95 percentile are kind of treading water. And then all the gains are going to the above 95 percentile. And it's really exponential above the 99.9. So I actually think what's causing leftism to work so well is that even millennials at the 80th percentile are starting to fall off. And those are very intelligent, educated people. We're talking about doctors. We're talking about lawyers. We're talking about professionals. We're talking about skilled tradespeople. We're talking about middle class or, people that actually are very productive in the economy, but they work for a living. Those are the people that are being left behind with skyrocketing housing costs. And they're the people that are, quite frankly, the most equipped as organizational leaders because they still have a little bit of runway, a little bit of space to operate, a little bit of room where they're not completely crushed in day-to-day survival. When you piss those people off, you're really opening up a dangerous revolutionary moment. Because if it's just the marginalized, if it's just the lumpen proles, society's already structured on how to control the lumpen proletariat. I know that there's a lot of third worldist Maoist types who have tried to be like, oh no, lumpen proletariat are really good to organize in. I am of an old school idea. I actually agree with Marx that lumpen proles are largely reactionary and the reactionary mass. I'm pretty skeptical of saying we should try to form the revolution around the lumpen proles. That being said, I'm not saying everybody who's lumpen prole is unorganizable. It's just society's focused on constraining them already. Society's focused on using violence and force against them and prisons against them. It's already oriented towards stopping them.
The folks who have gig jobs with our code,
lumpen prole, I swear everything means something different. I mean in the old Marxist sense. You can literally just get it off Google. I probably wouldn't say stuff like scrappers and rag pickers or even prostitutes, because I think the way sex work is changing in the 21st century makes it actually more similar to the overeducated, downwardly mobile, you know, college educated person. Like the way sex workers, especially online, operate. I'm not talking about like exploited streetwalkers. It's complicated. There's complexity. Do you have any major critiques of Marxism? Yeah, I think contradictions resulting in the collapse of capitalism is wrong. I think that capitalism, what Marx didn't understand is that capitalism has, and which is why we look at Lenin, which is why we look at Mao, we look at other leaders that have come since. I think what Marx didn't understand is that capital was going to be very, very nimble and how it was going to respond to various challenges. I don't think Marx really was capable. I mean, it was so, you know, I don't think he was capable of understanding how capitalism morphed, how trade, you know, like and, you know, technology, and there's all sorts of things that I don't think he could have foreseen. So I don't think the contradictions of capitalism are necessarily going to fall apart into socialism. It could just lead to human extinction. I don't think socialism is inevitable. It could just lead to human extinction. I don't necessarily believe that like progress is just going to happen. So we need to make active steps to choose the better world. We have to shape society in the way we want it to go, rather than just assuming that if we hang back, the contradictions are going to gum up the system and it's going to fly apart. I think we actually have to like do controlled demolition.
Gigs. 3 people have 3 gigs, no vacation.
What is vaporware? Vaporware is basically like a proposed software that never actually exists. It's like a false, it's like, it's just basically like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then it never happens. So I'm saying Elon Musk's political party is vaporware. He's like hyping it, but it's not going to fucking happen.
No healthcare, no pension, no future.
Somebody asked me 4 hours into the stream my thoughts on Hegel. A guy named Pol Pot asked me my thoughts on Hegel 4 hours into the stream. That's like asking me, what is it like? What's a good analogy? It's like asking a nurse after she did a double shift if she wants to go on a run. Like, come on, man.
Future, no nothing. That's about 80% of our city. They're worried, and it's very predictable. I predicted the first day. I knew exactly. I sent people the email. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to buy out all of the opposition candidates, the three main opposition candidates. Not that any of your viewers should know.
Didn't he say capitalism leads to inevitable crises for a socialist? Yeah. Marx believed that the most developed capitalist countries would be the vanguard nations. And he was just wrong about that. At least so far. Maybe he'll turn out to be right.
Or would know would be Curtis Sliwa, who is the Republican nominee, Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York, and possibly Andrew Cuomo. It's still unclear. So they were going to buy out all except one. And they're all crooks, you know, Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, they're crooks from the day go. So it's easy to buy them off, a bribe here, you know, a bribe there. So they'll narrow it down to 1 versus 1. Exactly what Obama and the Democratic Party leadership did after South Carolina. You remember Obama picked up the phone, get Buttigieg out, told him, you don't drop out, no future in the party. Called up Amy Klobuchar, don't drop out, no future in the party. And then it came down to Biden versus Bernie, and that's when it was over. Because up until that point, the mainstream Democrats were divided. It was Elizabeth, even at the end, it was Elizabeth Warren, Biden, Buttigieg, and Amy Klobuchar. So
He calls him Booty Cheek? I mean, Buttigieg wanted you to call him Boot Edge. Like literally the place where he places his tongue for a lick. I think calling him Booty Cheek is fine. It's better than Boot Edge.
Number 1, get rid of the other candidates. And now step number 2, it's perfectly obvious what's going to happen. It's what they did with Jeremy Corbyn. With Jeremy Corbyn, it began in the UK with the Labour Party. It began with the Jewish Board of Deputies attacking him on anti-Semitism. And there, the issue was for them, I mean, the Jewish Board of Deputies are basically a fifth column. They are foreign agents of the state of Israel. They should register as foreign agents, but of course, they're not going to be asked to, because then it's a trope. Jewish, you're claiming that Jews have dual loyalty, you know, a trope, they call it. I hate that word. It's just a stupid word.
I think that if somebody demonstrates dual loyalty, it's not anti-Semitic to say, hey, that guy's like not acting like he cares about this country. He's acting like he cares more about Israel. I think that's totally fine to do. You know, I think it's bigoted to say that of all Jews, and it's certainly the same was said about Catholics. They used to say they were papists. They're like, listen, they're more loyalty to the Bishop of Rome. They're more loyal to the Bishop of Rome. That's fucking anti-Catholic bigotry. But if somebody's like, I think that anybody who criticizes Israel should go to prison, that guy's not fucking loyal to this country and its values.
So they're foreign agents, they're agents of the Israeli government. In any event, so they started with the anti-Semitism, and then what happened? The whole British ruling elite, they latched onto it. From BBC to Sky News, from the Guardian newspaper to the tabloids in the UK, they all latched on to the anti-Semitism. Not that they cared about anti-Semitism, the Board of Deputies cared. True, not anti-Semitism, the Board of Deputies cared that Corbyn was not aligned with Israel. So they wanted to stop Corbyn for only one reason, Israel, the Jewish Board of Deputies, because they're Israeli agents. But then the whole ruling class, because they didn't want Corbyn, he represented a real insurgency. He was another class struggle. It was the class struggle. So they all exploited the anti-Semitism to stop Corbyn. And it did play a role. It wasn't the critical role. The critical role, judging by all the information we have, the critical role was Brexit, that Corbyn was not firm on the Brexit issue, no Britain leaving the European Union. But the anti-Semitism played a role. The assault attack played a role. And so now in New York, they'll find one candidate and they're going to go after Mamdani on the anti-Semitism issue.
Do you think it'll be as effective?
And it all depends on him. My counsel, which hasn't been solicited, but I'll just tell you, don't appease, because he'll never win. If you remember the Corbyn campaign, he made one concession after another concession after another concession. The party adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which is basically any criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic. They gave in on that. Did it help them? Did the juggernaut suddenly stop? You can't appease them, because the issue is not anti-Semitism. The issue is Israel and the class war. They are not going to let Zohran Mamdani, even if he gets circumcised, gets a bar mitzvah.
I mean, he's Muslim, so I assume that he is circumcised.
Right. I recognize that, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So they will never. He will never placate them. He should, in my opinion, he should stand firm in his convictions. He should surround himself with an iron wall of Jews who support him and let them do the hard work of fighting off these Jewish supremacist billionaires. And there are a sufficient number of young Jews who support Zohrani, and
many that have been canvassing for him quite actively as well.
Excuse me?
And many of them have been canvassing quite actively for him.
Absolutely. And he should make the point over and over and over again. I am not the extremist. I am in the mainstream. I go with what Amnesty International has to say. I go with what Human Rights Watch has to say. I go with what the International Court of Justice has to say. I go with what international law has to say. I go with what a large number of Holocaust scholars or genocide scholars, including Israeli genocide scholars. I go with what they have to say. You are the extremists. You are the fringe. I am not the fringe. You are the fringe. Israel is the fringe. Israel's defenders are the fringe. I am not. That should be his strategy. No appeasement, no attempt to placate. Surround yourself with an iron wall of Jews who support you, and let them make the case and make the point over and over again. I am not the extremist. You are. You are the ones defending what the International Court of Justice decided was a plausible genocide. I'm opposing that plausible genocide. You are the extremists, not me. That strategy it's not going to win Jews. Or I should say, it won't win the older generation of Jews. It'll probably win about 30% of the younger generation. I would estimate it about 30% of the younger generation. So that's what I would recommend to him. If he starts appeasing them, number one, it'll never work. And you know what's going to happen? Number two, it'll disillusion his base. They'll say he's already betraying his convictions and he hasn't yet even been elected. And it'll dissipate the enthusiasm. It'll be a disaster we already know it. We know it from the Corbyn campaign. It'll be a disaster if he goes.
And this is the most important point, is that if you see even a single person pretending that anti-Semitism is a problem on the left, you need to go to them and be like, no, it's not. There is no major figure on the left arguing for anti-Semitism. There is not. You might see somebody claiming to be a left-winger posting single tweets or something. That's not the left. But I could point to multiple major figures on the right who are anti-Semitic. Jake Shields, as an example. Landis Owens, as another example. These are people who espouse specific anti-Semitic belief systems. There are no prominent anti-Semitic left-wingers. They do not exist. It's just bullshit. So stop pretending like it's some problem. It's not. It absolutely is not. Does that mean anti-Semitism isn't a problem? No, I'm not saying that. Anti-Semitism can be a problem. But if somebody's coming in there wringing their hands about all this anti-Semitism on the left, it's a lie. Now, I don't expect Zohran to say that. I think that would be too challenging for most people. Okay? Most people are not ready to be challenged like that. That's my job. My job is to stand out there in the breach, okay? And make people actually defend the idea that there's an anti-Semite left. It doesn't exist. His space is to have the good vibes, all right? And to pick and choose his enemies. I'm going to clear the field I'm going to screen these dumb fucking arguments so they never get to Zohran. And I'm going to stand there so that he has the space to operate.
Goes down that path, I don't know what he'll do. I'm sure, right now, the Jewish mafia like Gerald Nadler in New York, he's saying he's supporting Mamdani. No. Gerald Nadler has a very long history of being a grotesque apologist for Israel. But his aim is to try to persuade from within. And there'll be a lot of sweet talking, a lot of talk about being reasonable, about Jewish fears, and, using all of that language. And I don't know how he'll stand up. It's too soon to tell. So far, he's done well, I would say. The two comparisons that are being made with him are with Barack Obama and with AOC, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But the comparisons are completely wrong. First of all, Obama had no program at all. He said it himself. If you read his autobiography, he said, he called it a neat trick. I stood for nothing. He said that. I stood for nothing. It was a neat trick, he said. And secondly, Obama ran with the money. The billionaire class supported Obama. They gave him huge amounts of money from beginning in Chicago. The Pritzker family, which is one of the richest families in Chicago, they backed Obama.
Norm Finkelstein continuing to be so fucking based.
But Zohran Mamdani, he had a very concrete program. People called it crazy. Free buses, free childcare, but there was a very concrete program there. It's not Obama, a neat trick. And secondly, Mamdani ran against the money. He was outspent 30-1 by the billionaire class. So that's not Obama. And it's not AOC, because AOC got elected before anyone knew what her politics were. It was a kind of fluke.
I would say that's not right. I would say that AOC did a grassroots campaign with strong left-wing politics, but she was able to win because the establishment was not ready to do full court press against her. But after she won, now everybody knows what her politics is, and she's extremely popular among her district and among Democrats. So he's wrong about this. She did get in there as a fluke, but the fact that she stayed there and has only grown in strength is because of her politics and her politics alone. And Zohran is a extension of AOC. I want everybody to understand this. If you like Zohran, Zohran is an extension of AOC. AOC created the space that Zohran then further developed. He's the next stage of a leader. She created the space in New York. She built it up. And then that space that she helped create, he grew and has superseded her. But she was necessary for Zohran to exist. You needed AOC. For AOC to exist, you needed Bernie. So like you could see the direct path of development that's happening.
At a very local level. Mamdani had to face the tough questions before he won the primary. They were hammering him already about the anti-Semitism. They were hammering him about his tax the rich, and how can you do that because the laws don't allow you to. He was already being, AOC faced no opposition. There was a very old guy who was in her district. He didn't even know what was going on. He was completely detached. But with Cuomo versus Mamdani, they knew what was going on. Everybody understood what was going on. This is a class war. And that's why we're giving him $25 to $30 million. This is serious business. Because as Mr. Reckler said, this is the capital of capitalism. You don't run a socialist candidate here. So he faced the opposition already, which AOC was basically below the radar when she got elected. So it's not AOC, and it's not Obama. It's a very different. The closest thing is obviously Bernie, with the obvious difference. Well, it's not yet obvious difference because we don't know who will win in November. I think it'll be a tough battle, but it's a battle which, frankly, I relish because the identity politics is dead now. You can't use that. All the woke people like Angela Davis and Ta-Nehisi Coates and Gloria Steinem, all the woke people who attacked Bernie, that's over. You can't do that with Mamdani. It's not going to work.
I think the left has matured. I think the left has matured. And I can tell that because the way people used to interpret me saying much the same thing back in the day was to call me racist. I bet you it still exists in some of the darker spaces of the greater Hassan universe. People calling me, they don't want to just admit I was right and be like, yeah, Mike was kind of right about everything and we were wrong. And like a lot of people hate me for shit that they now admit they were wrong about, but they kept hating me. Like that's one of the things that's fucking weird. Like some people hate me because I made fun of Destiny and Vosh, and now they hate Destiny and Vosh, but they kept hating me. It's like odd. It's odd behavior.
So it's going to be a clear class struggle, but of course, the other side is going to try to misrepresent it as it's an issue of anti-Semitism. That's what they'll try to do. But everybody understands what's going on. I mean, they're just the ruling class, they're very straightforward. They say we've got to stop this guy. You read the front page of the Times. They says all these business leaders got together with Eric Adams. We've got to stop this guy. They're not so much afraid of him. They're afraid of the movement. The electorate is supposed to be passive, and they should choose among the candidates that we decided You remember what the New York Times wrote in the editorial? They said Mamdani should not even have a line on the ballot. Can you hear that?
Paraphrase Maya Angelou, they'll forget that you were right, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's exactly right. People don't remember what you did. They remember how you made them feel. That is the essence of all of this. All right, zoom out. Zoom out further. There you go. I must have inadvertently made my zoom gesture. Did I have a nose hair? I don't think I have any nose. Probably a booger.
On the primary ballot, there were a large number of people running in the primary. They said he shouldn't even have a line on the primary ballot. They couldn't have felt very well when they discovered their influence now is down to about zero. Nobody gave a damn what the New York, in my day, a New York Times endorsement, at least in New York City politics, decided the election. It was a very fraught moment. The New York Times editorial, who it endorsed. Yes, it was a very big moment. Even when you knew who they were going to endorse, it was still a solemn occasion, that New York Times editorial, who it's endorsing. Now nobody gives a shit. Or darn, they've lost all credibility.
All right, chat, I'm going to call it there with our man Norman. What a day, chat. What a fucking day. I'll be back here tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. And now we have a new camera. Hope you enjoyed the new camera. Is the new camera better? Is the new camera better? Is it an upgrade? Should we keep it? Or should we go back to the old camera? I'm going to reconfigure the stream. That's the next multi-month project. Better, but we got to work on the tracking? What do you mean? Well, it's because I might need to like slightly, I might need to cut it, like adjust the camera so it tracks. It has me more in the center, because right now I cut the camera. I fucked it up. Yeah, I didn't center it properly. So anyway, all right, thank you everybody for all the support. Don't forget, I have a new Tickety Talk. Before you go, make sure you go watch the new Tickety Talk. I'm trying to infiltrate the libs with this TikTok.
Let's talk about the Trump supporters.
Hold on. I want libs to react to this.
I'm so
all right, hold on. Here you go, chat. Go watch it, react, like, and follow me on TikTok.